Alright guys, so I've been playing for 1,084 days played, and I've god rolled every single gun in the entire game. And today we're going to talk about all of the best guns in the game that I played. We're going to cover all of the top guns that I really enjoy playing, why I enjoy playing them, and give you the perk loadouts for each of these so that you know which of the guns that are really most worth your time and how to build them to get the absolute most extreme awesome effectiveness out of these weapons.
Can I be your superhero?
Hey guys, we need your help. As a content creator, the only way that we can keep doing this is if people see value in what we're doing and choose to support. So if it's at all possible, please come and support on Patreon. Even if it's just $1 or whatever you can afford to give, it means the world, guys. So thank you so much for all the support.
Now, the DPS for these weapons are going to vary based on your account level. For me, I am a maxed out level player with a maxed out everything. God rolled every single weapon to level, maximum level 50. Led full God roll perks with the best loadouts possible. So the numbers are going to look different for me than they do for you based on how far you are through the game. Now, starting out, we have the Atomic Light Expander. This is a spear from the sci-fi set. Extremely powerful, often forgotten about because of the Earsplitter. But this one is a destroyer, man. People don't give this one nearly enough credit. This is an insane weapon. The ultimate loadout for this one is crit rate, double crit damage. Now you can choose between heavy attack efficiency, or you can choose between extra damage, depending on if you feel like you need more damage or you feel like you need your heavy attack energy to go further. The choice is yours. I usually run with the heavy attack efficiency because I like not ever running out of energy when I'm using this weapon. Now this one is super nasty, and it also has the ability to modify the passive into different things. You can have the expanding ring, 7 exploding projectiles. You can go with a ramping crit rate on this. So really, it's up to you which of those 3 you think works best for your tactics. They're all really good. Now, this weapon here is a heavy attack specialist, and man, when you throw down that heavy attack, this thing just absolutely nukes everything around you. So unlike the Earsplitter, this one you have to use your heavy attack over and over again instead of just sticking it in the ground and channeling it. So most people are going to go with the Earsplitter over this one, but if you are being aggressive and attacking and being on the move all the time, this thing has a 48% chance to crit with a massive crit damage, and utilizing that AoE over and over again, you can just basically march through enemy forces and destroy everything. It is obscenely powerful. Alright guys, next we have the Backbreaker. This is a really interesting classic set weapon. The thing that makes this one different is the fact that it actually has 2,500 range, a little bit longer range than your regular short mid-range 2,000 shotguns, which is kind of the normal. So it's got an extra 500 range on there. In addition, it has a quite a fast fire rate and a massive magazine size. This means when you amplify it with a magazine augmentation to boost that mag size up, the reload time for individual shells is just basically as fast as you can pull the trigger. You are reloading slugs into the gun. So even when you use up the entire 17 magazine size, you will just continue slamming slugs into the gun and firing them instantly, and it will basically not seem like there's any change in the rate of fire of your weapon. That's one of the interesting things about reload time for a slug gun, is that the reload time doesn't change even if the mag size goes up. So if you raise the mag size, it will still reload that entire mag size in the same amount of time, meaning the slugs go in faster. Much like, it's basically like increasing the reload speed by 75%. It's absolutely crazy. So yeah, the mag size increase is essential. The best perk loadout for the Backbreaker is a double damage, magazine size, and damage to slowed and snared. It's a very fast firing gun with really solid damage, with a decent range, and makes for, you know, one heck of an experience. It's a fun weapon for sure. All right, next we have the Baron. Oh, what is there to say about the Baron besides everybody in the universe wants it? They all want it. It's the only weapon in the entire game that you can put 3 movement speed perks on, making you run like the wind. You run so fast with the Baron. It is just absolutely amazing. You can basically just dodge enemies all day, every day. They can't catch you. You can jump over gaps that you wouldn't normally be able to jump over. It's just absolutely amazing. It's the ultimate travel escape weapon in this game, and at some point, everybody is going to want to get their own Baron. It is just undeniably, it's never left my bar ever for more than 5 minutes. It's so good. All right, guys, next we're looking at the Bazooka. This is the OG rocket launcher, and it is just as good as it ever was, man. With this one here, you want to go with a 3 damage loadout. Damage to slowed and snared. That is... Oh, man. This... Just in case you forgot how strong the Bazooka was, guys, it's a beast. This thing has a great rate of fire, good reload, just tons of damage, huge explosion, just beautiful AoE, and with a triple damage loadout, you're going to absolutely smash anything mid-size or lower, which is exactly what you want from your weapons. This can be perked into any element, so the Bazooka is universally, you know, effective. It's a classic set weapon, meaning it's very, very easy to get your hands on. Anyone can get their hands on this, multiple copies of this for that matter, and just absolutely smash everything. It is a great weapon, and it is definitely not one that people should forget about or pass over, especially if you are early on in your set. If you're not rocking the, you know, some of the newest, most overpowered niche weapons, the Bazooka is a fantastic, just powerhouse level weapon. All right, guys, next on the list, we have the Bear. This is another classic set shotgun that has been in the game since day one. It has received some significant upgrades that have made this one of my favorite guns in the entire game. This thing is a absolute monster at wiping out multiple enemies with single shots. It is kind of a midway between a full-blown double-barreled shotgun, which have the maximum spread, and a single target shotgun. This one kind of sits happily in the middle, boasting absolutely incredible damage and the ability to hit multiple enemies with a single trigger pull. The fire rate on this is quite slow, only one per second, meaning because of the slow fire rate, you definitely want to run this with a flat damage as opposed to crit damage. This is not designed to wipe out large single target health pool targets. This is designed to wipe out many targets that are pushing you down, medium-sized targets. So because of that, you want to have a consistent damage output. The best perk loadout that you can use for this weapon is a double damage magazine size damage to slowed and snared. This is your regular 2000 range, kind of short mid-range shotgun that does absolutely killer damage. So you guys are going to absolutely love this weapon. I love to use this weapon alongside of my Browbeater when there are just too many enemies in front of me. And the Browbeater just can't keep up with enough fire rate or enough crowd clearing. This one really fills in that niche very effectively. All right, moving on to the Beatblaster. This is one of our boombox weapons. Man, this one's a fun one. This one has upsides and has downsides, but is undisputedly one of the most powerful weapons in the game. The reason being is because of the piercing effect. Because this gun boasts a piercing effect at 4,000 range, it allows you to absolutely devastate entire waves of enemies like nothing. If this weapon has a weakness, it is the very small mag size of 24. 24 mag size is not great, but it also has a slow fire rate of 4.5, which kind of balances it out because this gun has very top-heavy flat damage. Because it is very slow attacking, it has very high damage and very high headshot damage, meaning you need fewer bullets to kill everything. And since you're going to be shooting through a crowd and hitting multiple enemies per shot, yes, this actually works hugely to its advantage, and it is very ammo efficient because it hits so hard and fires so slow. It doesn't take very many shots to wipe out entire crowds of enemies, and as long as you run with a reload speed perk on this weapon, the reload time is not that bad. The ultimate loadout that I found for this gun was definitely crit rate, double crit damage with reload speed, and it will absolutely slice everything into ribbons. With this one here, you want to go with a passive of eliminations or stunning. That way you can control whether or not you want to cause nearby enemies to dance by killing or just by, pushing into the strongest, thickest meat of the group. The dancing effect on this gun just takes this thing to a whole new level. If you are getting surrounded and pressured down, this gun will actually completely disable the enemies from being able to attack you while you wipe them out like crazy. The dancing effect of the boombox set is undisputedly one of the most devastating crowd control tools in the entire game, making this one just at the top of my list for awesome guns. Next, we have the Bigshot. This is the one of the other Art Deco weapons that just rocked my world. Also rocking the 44% bonus damage against elemental enemies. Picking between, you got to get fire, nature, and water if you want to have the best loadout for this thing. The perk loadout for this one is going to be double crit rate, double crit damage. That makes this weapon have a staggering 56% chance to crit, dropping bombs like crazy. The other alternative is to go with a flat damage build instead of a crit damage build if you want to have more consistency so that every single shot ends up being a kill shot, which, debatably is actually more powerful, but the choice is ultimately yours. This weapon is a double barrel shotgun with a great area of effect, has a 1200 range, which is really good for a double barreled shotgun, and just is overall just a staggeringly powerful, devastating, elemental specific killing, super clear weapon. I love it so much. All right, next we have the Black Metal Sword, the Black Blade. The perk loadout for this one is crit rate, double crit damage, and of course 80% bonus, or up to 80% bonus damage based on your missing health. The more damage you get, the more damage you do, making this one of the hardest, if not the hardest hitting sword in the entire game. It can be a little bit difficult navigating the fact that this one has such a slow attack speed, but it's something that you will happily give up when you realize that this weapon also has the leap attack, allowing you to leap through the air over long distances, getting up to high ground, or smashing groups of enemies, even when you're using the leap attack at point blank range to completely devastate groups of enemies. This one is just one of the nastiest weapons in the game. You can perk this one for either physical or for fire, and just basically go nuts. It is probably my favorite leap attack sword. This one is a lot stronger than the Guardian, which, I love that one too, but this one really takes the damage to a whole new level with those insane crits. Alright guys, next we have the Blastrotron Mini. This is the sci-fi SMG. Fun note, this used to be a pistol, but when all of the SMGs transition happened, this got transitioned from a pistol into an SMG, which is pretty freaking nuts and pretty cool. This one is absolutely insanely powerful. Debatedly one of the strongest, if not the strongest SMG in the game. The only real downside, of course, is that this is an energy weapon, never an elemental specific counter. The ultimate perk loadout for this gun is the crit rate, double crit damage, mag size. This comes with a ramping crit rate, which makes the gun get stronger and stronger as you fire it, which is crazy considering this already has a standard 43% chance to crit, making it go over 50% once you start ramping this weapon up. And holy cow, man, this thing it hurts. This is a beastie weapon. The only real downside to this gun is it feels like the magazine is a little bit shallow. You have to reload quite often. The 2.4 is not a bad reload, but it's not a great reload speed. But man, this gun, it feels dangerous because the flat damage is extraordinarily high, And the headshot damage is not that much better, meaning you can go aim center mass and not really lose that much damage using for that style of gameplay. For those of you who don't really want to focus on headshots, this one does not punish you for aiming center mass at all. It is a sexy, sexy beast of a gun. All right, next we have the Blizzard Blitzer. This is just a nutty weapon, man. This weapon actually was one of the reasons that we're able to beat Frost Knight when Frost Knight came out. Using the hitting an enemy 7 times causes that enemy to freeze for a short duration. This was the tool that we use to crowd control smashers and keep them suppressed. It would be argued that as a suppression weapon, it is a much better idea to go with freezing on on stunned, right? Stunning to trigger the freeze is a lot more effective than shooting 7 times, because honestly, this gun is so powerful that most enemies are dead long before the 7th shot hits that target. So these 7 times is no longer your best bet as a passive. In fact, a lot of people are actually going with this weapon as a damage weapon, which is, in my opinion, probably a better idea entirely. As good as this weapon is as a crowd control weapon, there is a new passive that you can achieve with Core Reperk to increase the damage done to fire enemies by 44%. Well, this being a water enemy, or a water gun doing bonus damage to fire enemies, being able to get a fire enemy specific killing passive on it turns this gun into a god tier tool of destruction. Just unbelievable power. The best perk loadout for this weapon is going to be crit rate, double crit damage, and then damage to miss monsters and bosses. This is why the gun is just so brutal. It's the power truly comes from the fact that this is a projectile weapon with a really short range. Because it's so short ranged, the damage is quite high, and the perk loadout is very, very powerful. It is really fun, man. This is a fun, powerful weapon that I think a lot of people are going to absolutely fall in love with, especially now that they can go and core perk this one to be their primary anti-fire destroying tool of choice. All right, next we have the Bobcat. The Bobcat is just fearsome. This thing has just absolutely incredible damage output. The perk loadout is insane. The only weakness that this gun has is a slow 3.3 reload time. This is going to be definitely a problem for some people, and it's for sure going to put people off of this gun compared to some of the other options that are now available in the SMG category. But the best perk loadout for this one remains crit rate, double crit damage, and damage to slowed and snared. This is an absolutely terrifying, powerful weapon, and it'll go down in history as one of the strongest SMGs in Save the World history for sure. All right, next we have the Browbeater. Now, it is no secret that the Browbeater is one of my favorite shotguns in the entire game. Not because it is the most powerful shotgun in the entire game. There are, better shotguns, but just because the power and fun factor combination of this one makes this gun truly unlike any other gun in the game. All right, the most powerful loadout, perk loadout in the game for the Browbeater is, for me personally, fire rate and triple crit damage. The reason I love this is because this gun hits so hard that there's no reason to rely on the crit damage to get those big hits. When you run with triple crit damage and fire rate, you can one-shot kill pretty much anything with a headshot. This thing will absolutely devastate virtually all enemies. The damage is just astounding. Whereas when you're running with a crit build, the crit build is very good, undoubtedly. It will do more total damage and is better against super large targets. However, I find that I end up shooting more times because of bad RNG, and I think that for me, it just functions way better with the consistency of always knowing how much damage you're going to do. And yeah, it just blows my mind. Now, the passive for this gun is also something very special. There are a lot of passives in the game, but for me personally, I think that the best passive in the game is actually standing in place for 2 seconds grants you bonus damage against all enemies. The bonus damage against mist monsters is too specific. You really want to be able to use this mostly against mini bosses. When the mini boss comes up, that's when you really want to stand still and just, tee off on his face. Or when you're standing in the doorway and you're standing perfectly still as a horde of enemies funnels in on you, and you want to make sure that you have the ability to kill whatever's in front of you. Mist monsters, or like mini bosses, are not always mist monsters. Sometimes they come in husk or husky variants, not necessarily a smasher. So I find that the versatility of having damage to all enemies is better than having the bigger damage to mist monsters specifically. Next, we have the notorious Bundlebuss. This one has been well known for a very long time to be one of the most powerful weapons in the game, even after it got nerfed. This one is devastating. Rocking the perk loadout of crit rate, double crit damage, this thing is a terror. Now, when you're modifying the perks, you actually have the utility talent. There's a very, you can either go with damage if you want to hit the maximum, impact, the maximum burst. However, it is actually a much better idea to go with reload speed as your utility perk, because this does have a 3.3 reload, which is very, very slow, and you probably don't want to be sitting on your reload for that long in between your shots. So I would suggest going with reload speed as the 4th perk, and it'll be much more universally effective as a weapon. The thing that makes this weapon so powerful and so amazing is the passive. Landing 5 hits in a row causes an explosion. So if you hit 5 shots on a single target, the target explodes, dealing damage to all enemies within a half-tile radius. And the damage is a significant 70%, which is absolutely devastating. Super, super powerful weapon with a very high 43% chance to crit and an insane 5,120 range. This gun is devastating and top tier, and one of the best weapons to use in the game for wiping out flingers and lobbers and any long range targets. This one will be an absolute champion in your arsenal. Alright guys, now we're talking about the Candy Corn LMG. The ultimate perk loadout for this one is crit rate, double crit damage, and mag size. You actually can go with a few different strategies. I've tried with damage, and I've tried with, everything. But honestly, when you're using an LMG, it's all about getting that huge mag size. That way your Crankshot and Bulletstorm can go on for days, and just the immortal gunner power is just unrivaled and unstoppable. So definitely go with mag size for your utility perk. Alright, so this gun is basically like a Terminator, except for a physical element. This gun is absolutely ludicrous. It is the perfect loadout for an LMG. Crit rate, double crit damage, and mag size is the dream. And this thing actually drops candies on the ground that will heal you periodically whenever you kill enemies. Now, there is actually a better perk. If you use your core reperk on this weapon, you can actually change your passive to a ramping damage or a ramping crit rate, which is obviously way more powerful than candy pickups. So if you want to turn this gun into an even more powerful juggernaut of a weapon, literally one of the best weapons in the entire history of Save the World, there you go. Candy Corn LMG, the monster. Alright, next we have the Canonade, one of my all-time favorite weapons. This is such a unique weapon. I run with this one with just flat damage across the board, just for consistent destruction. That way, every single target that you hit, is going to take a consistent, super high, rocking amount of damage. And this one's amazing. This one has a super fast fire rate, and it can fire up to 8 shots before it needs to reload. The reload time is 3.2, which is not great, but it's it's undeniable. The Canonade is just a fantastic weapon. It looks kind of like a grenade launcher, but it fires more like a rocket launcher. It's like a hybrid of a grenade / rocket launcher, and anyone who uses this gun is going to immediately like it. It has the range on it is extremely long range. Because it is a cannon weapon, you can actually get bonus damage by putting Blackbeard in your support squad, which is an added benefit to boost the damage even higher. It's crazy. It's a crazy, super fun rockin' weapon, and everyone who uses this is going to like it. It's got a lot of advantages. All right, next we have the Corsair, one of the most powerful swords in the entire game. This one has an extremely interesting passive where on crit, it increases your pistol headshot damage by 40% for 5 seconds, giving this excellent synergy with the counterpart Jack's Revenge, which is a headshot destroying monster weapon. Something to note about the Corsair is that attacking with this weapon actually causes the critical hit chance to increase passively as a secret stat, making this just a scary weapon to fight against. The most powerful loadout for the Corsair is attack speed, double crit damage, and damage. You actually don't need to go with crit chance on this one, especially if you're going to use the Jack's Revenge in combo, because the Jack's Revenge will actually give it a crit rate boost, and the passive crit rate modifier in this will give it an additional boost, making the crit chance insanely high, and making this weapon actually do like just ludicrous crit damage with that 345% modifier. This one is a very unique, very powerful, very fun weapon. There's not too many combo pieces in the game, but this is one of those truly special weapons. All right, guys, next we have the Crankshot. The Crankshot is a sniper rifle from the Rat Rod set. This one is just absolutely amazing. This is one of the staple weapons that we use with our perma-freeze build with Sub-Zero Zenith. This one really enables you to have a very functional, very powerful automatic sniper rifle, so you can put a lot of bullets into an enemy very quickly while having a really good loadout. Now, with this one here, there's two different perk loadouts that I recommend the most. My favorite is the offensive one, which is crit rate, double crit damage, and reload speed. The other one, however, is to actually sacrifice one of your crit damage perks for a crit rate perk, which boosts this crit chance over 50%, which on Sub-Zero Zenith, who freezes targets every time he gets a crit, this will basically guarantee that half your shots are freezing the enemies like crazy, which turns this weapon into like the ultimate crowd control tool of choice. All in all, for all you Zenith fans out there, this is an absolute must-have in your arsenal. All right, so next we have the Deatomizer 9000, notoriously one of the most sought-after weapons in the game. This one has some of the largest area of effect destruction of any rocket launcher. It is just nasty. My favorite loadout for this one, like all rocket launchers, is just flat damage across the board. All flat damage with some heat capacity so that you can really fire a lot before it overheats. The nice thing about this weapon as well is that even when it overheats, you can just switch to another one and start firing that one. And by the time you overheat that weapon, the original one is ready to go again. So essentially, there is no downtime between shots besides your fire rate, which is a 1 per second fire rate, which is crazy on a rocket launcher, especially one that has this much area of effect damage potential. So yeah, Deatomizer 9000 is a fan favorite and well deserved. This thing is a beast of a weapon. Now this one does have some options. You have the expanding ring of damage. You have the stunning or knockback does extra damage, which is kind of cool because you're going to definitely knock back a lot of enemies with this one. Anything that survives is going to get, additional damage. Or you can actually stand still and get the shield regeneration value depending on how you want to build this gun. So yeah, Deatomizer 9000, absolute superstar top tier champ weapon. All right, next we have the Dirge Song. Have you ever wished that you had an SMG that was actually a Bundlebuss? Well, wait no more. The Black Metal SMG is the weapon for you. This thing fires in 9-round bursts, dealing moderate damage and heavy impact with a moderate recoil. This thing is nasty, man. It is a nasty burst weapon. It is a burst super cannon that, like all black metal weapons, gets stronger and stronger the lower you get on health. The ultimate perk loadout for this one is crit rate, double crit damage with up to 80% bonus damage based on the percentage of your missing health. This one is a rock star of a weapon. You can perk this one between physical and fire only, so this one is really going to line up mostly as your nature killing weapon of choice. This thing boasts a phenomenal 11.48 fire rate, which is terrifying. And yeah, you guys are gonna have some fun shredding things with this incredibly unique, incredibly powerful SMG. All right, next we have the double boiler. This, oh man, this gun. This is one of, if not the most powerful shotgun in the entire game. This thing hits, it hits so hard, man. It hits so freaking hard. The damage on this gun is just mind-breaking. It is a double-barreled shotgun that has a very limited spread and a really bad reload time, and because of that, the damage that this thing puts out will knock your freaking socks off. It is so nasty. Oh my god, you guys gotta get this gun in your life. I run with a 4 damage loadout to really make sure you have that consistency, and this thing will just tear everyone to freaking pieces. Yeah. The best perk for this one is definitely the standard loadout. The bullet splinters into shrapnel, dealing 40% damage behind the target. So whatever you kill, the enemies behind that target are going to get just absolutely dumped on by the shrapnel effect. All right, next we have the Dragoon. This used to be the most powerful double-barrel shotgun in the entire game. Just the devastating, massive area of effect, huge damage. Now, this has been actually nerfed a little bit with the big shotgun update that came out, which buffed all the shotguns, making them all top-tier god-like weapons. This one, however, got a little bit of the short end of the stick. They actually toned this one down, making it so it's no longer the #1 killer in the game for double-barreled shotguns. Now, this one is more of an impact shotgun that does pretty solid damage to enemies. Still an absolutely great gun, devastating damage, but as with most of the flintlock style weapons, this one focuses a little bit more heavily on the impact as opposed to damage. Keep in mind this has an insanely short range. 768 is the lowest range that you could possibly have on any weapon, so you got to be point blank for this thing to really achieve its maximum damage. But all in all, this gun is just insane. The ultimate perk loadout for the Dragoon is crit rate, double crit damage with damage to slowed and snared or afflicted targets. All right, next we have the Duet. This is a steampunk favorite of mine. Funny story, when this gun first came out, I actually hated it. I was like, man, the DPS on this thing absolutely sucks. And it does suck. But that's not, that doesn't define this weapon. The best loadout for this gun, in my opinion, is crit rate, double crit damage, mag size. And what this does for this weapon is creates a 105 mag size weapon that combos so well with Crankshot and Bulletstorm as a ramp weapon, right? So you have this incredible ramping effect, which boosts the damage up and up and up. This thing fires super slowly with this chugging anti-aircraft style. Like, it looks gorgeous, and it has this gung gung, like this sound. It just feels like an anti-aircraft cannon in your hand, and because of this really slow fire rate and this really giant mag size, you basically feel like you're never ever reloading. And even when you finally have to reload, the reload time's only 2.5, which is not that bad at all. And the damage for this gun, oh my god, the damage on this gun is just awesome. Like, the consistent damage that you put out. The thing I like about this gun is that if you don't want to use a lot of materials on crafting ammo, because I often will go with like a Terminator, right, which just absolutely vomits ammo and is quite expensive to use. This is the opposite end of that spectrum. If you want a sustained damage weapon that just fires forever and costs very little on ammo and just continually does damage that seems to never end, then the Duet is the gun for you. It is a super stylistic, super powerful, super fun weapon that you are going to love. All right, next we have the Earsplitter. This one is undisputedly one of the most powerful weapons ever released in the history of Save the World. This thing is a boombox weapon, and it comes with the Sonic Pulse, which allows you to slam the weapon into the ground, creating a massive damage effect that kills everything that comes into your range, while at the same time creating a temporary damage buff, empowering your entire team to do massive, massive bonus damage, which you'll often see people use in the Horn phase of the Mythic Storm King fight, making this one of the most used, most deadly weapons ever made by far. Whenever you stun or knock back an enemy with this weapon, it will actually cause all nearby enemies to dance, making it even harder for you to actually take damage while creating this field of death. The ultimate perk loadout for this one is definitely crit rate, crit damage with damage and heavy attack efficiency, so that you use very, very little energy while channeling your heavy attack, allowing you to do it for extended periods of time without ever, having to worry about running out of energy with the right hero loadout build. This thing is just insane. Another really interesting to note, another really interesting thing to note about the Earsplitter is that it has a 48% chance to crit, which makes the, basically the damage is just out of control. This weapon is madness. Just straight up madness. Absolutely top tier forever. And third in the Art Deco is the Floor Flusher, man. Oh boy, do people love this gun. And I do not blame them. This gun is a mowing machine. So with this one here, you can go with a few different loadouts. I really enjoy using crit rate, double crit damage, and mag size for this one. This one packs a very, very big 52 mag size when boosted, and has excellent damage, really slow fire rate. So it's a very controlled weapon. Has a very, it fires very well over longer periods of time. And of course, rocking the 44% bonus damage against the element of your choice is going to make this such a niche, just a killer, man. Just a killer. Just a great perk loadout and just great stats make this weapon just absolutely rock solid and one of the best anti-elemental specific weapons in the game. Alright, so next we have the Freedom's Herald. Now this is a very unique weapon. This is a classic set pistol, and it's special. It launches firecrackers that bounce off walls. It'll knock back and damage enemies in a small radius when they explode. This thing is, a fairly hefty AoE explosion weapon. Very, very strong, very, very effective, kind of janky, but overall, quite, it's good. It's good at what it does. You just have to make sure that you aim down the line, hit your target, aim for center mass of, the biggest crowd of enemies you can, and when it explodes, it will do a bunch of damage to a lot of the enemies in the area, knocking them all back and smacking them around really hard. It's one of those 256 range weapons, which is really meaningless. That just means that you shoot, and when it hits the enemies, it'll explode in that area, doing damage to the enemies. So because this is a fairly slow firing weapon, you can only fire this once per second because of the reload time. This weapon is best used as a damage weapon. That way you have some consistency with the output. If you decide to build this as a crit weapon, some of the shots are going to do really, really heavy damage. Some of them are going to do virtually nothing. And because you're firing so slowly, that can be really, really, not fun. Not fun at all. So definitely build this with double damage, reload speed, and damage to afflicted targets or damage to slowed and snared for the best effect. Now, the other advantage of this being a one magazine size weapon is that this weapon will benefit from anything with reloading effects. So if you use a hero that gives you bonus damage after reloading, or if you have a weapon that gives you bonus damage like Calamity on the first 6 shots of your gun, you can kind of get a few different effects that will augment the power of this weapon. In addition, you can also use it with characters like Chromium Ramirez, which cuts your reload speed in half, which essentially doubles the damage output of this weapon because it's only, one in the mag. You use Ramirez, and you get her bonus every single time that you reload your gun. So you shoot, you empty the magazine, it reloads, you get a double reload, and you get that shield boost. There's a lot of different ways that you can utilize single magazine style weapons to your advantage. So this one is a lot of fun. Alright guys, next we have the Gammatron 9000. This is the sci-fi assault rifle. This is a fully automatic weapon, but also a burst weapon. So it actually fires in burst, but you can hold the trigger down for insane offensive power. The thing hits like a truck, and the ultimate loadout for this one is going to be the crit rate, double crit damage, mag size loadout. The thing that makes this so good is the insanely deep magazine. 79 is a huge mag, so you can just dump ammo like crazy into enemies. The downside is, of course, that it is energy ammo, but it has great range, has really rockin' rate of fire, so it really pounds damage fast. And you also have the ramping 6 perk, so you can actually get ramping crit rate, stacking up to 15 times, which makes the damage output of this weapon when you are just continually firing over and over just beyond scary. The Gammatron 9000 is a horrifically powerful gun, and the only real downside is that it is only ever going to be an energy weapon as opposed to an elemental specific counter. Fantastic weapon. Alright, next we have the gorgeous Ghost Pistol. This thing looks so pretty. The ultimate loadout for this one is crit rate, crit damage, reload speed, and damage to slowed and snared. This one here really shines because it shoots through walls. It has a 43% chance to crit with a solid 285% critical hit damage because it has these, it's a 6-shooter magazine. You can use Calamity in the support or as a commander and get some really nasty damage out of this weapon. I like to basically use this one from behind walls, from inside my base. Being able to shoot through walls with this one is really where this gun super shines. This is basically the obliterator of pistols, with the downside of having projectile, making it less effective at long range, but extremely effective at close range. This gun has always been an all-time favorite of mine, especially if you decide to go just pure unmitigated damage rocking with Ranger Beetlejuice as your primary commander. Because you can hide behind walls to do damage, you can attack with Beetlejuice without really having to worry about taking damage yourself, meaning you can attack from safety and just go all in with the massive crit damage and use this as a really lethal offensive tool. Alright, so next we have the Gravedigger. The ultimate perk loadout for the Gravedigger is crit rate, crit damage, and damage to afflicted targets. This is a longtime favorite of the community. It is a heavily memed weapon, and to this day, it is still a extremely powerful, extremely dangerous weapon. It is very much of a versatile, good at everything style of weapon. It'll feel great. It'll hit hard, good impact. Everything about this weapon will make you feel comfortable and shoot the way that you want to shoot. It is a fantastic weapon. All right, next we have the Ground Pounder. This is a devastating military shotgun. Man, the whole military set is just absolutely wild. The best perk loadout with this gun is damage, mag size, and damage to slowed and snared. This gun hits like an absolute freaking truck. It destroys everything in its path. The damage is just insane. The rate of fire is insane. As long as you have magazine size as your support perk, the reload speed is out of control. You can basically fire this thing almost as fast as you can crank on that trigger. This thing is just a terrifying weapon. And man, I can't wait till you guys get to God roll this for yourself and feel the power of the Ground Pounder. This is easily one of the most powerful shotguns in the entire game. Just a monster. Alright, next we have the Helium Shotgun. This gun is a monster. Oh my god. The best loadout for the Helium Shotgun is double damage, mag size, and damage to missed monsters and bosses. Now, with this one here, it is a fairly slow firing weapon, so having damage to slowed and snared or damage to affliction really is not that effective because this gun hits so bloody hard. It's going to either, destroy most medium to small enemies, or, the damage bonus isn't really going to matter anyway, right? That extra, that extra damage to slowed and snared is not going to matter if you kill the enemy in 2 shots. It's not a useful tool. So when it comes to the passive perk for this one, you do have some options. You can take stun it. You can actually do bonus damage whenever you stun or knock back an enemy, which is actually pretty effective because this gun has fairly hard impact and you get some good stuns on enemies. Or you can go with a stackable shield bonus, which is not that effective because you got to stack it up to 10 times. This is really only useful on super fast firing weapons. So there really isn't a lot of options for the Helium Shotgun as to which one's the best. My preference would be stun or snare, to slow them down or to get that extra damage. But it's not really that important. This one here is the reason that you want to use the Helium Shotgun is because it's a piercing shotgun that shoots through energy shields. So when you see a bubble, your options is now Obliterator, Xenon Bow, Neon Sniper Rifle, and the Helium Shotgun. The Helium Shotgun is a spectacular option because it has an area, like a ball, an explosive ball that it shoots that has a pretty decent area of effect, making it very, very easy, even though it's a projectile weapon, fairly easy to shoot through shields and wipe out those annoying little shield protectors so that you can clean everybody out with more powerful weapons. That is really the only purpose that I use the Helium Shotgun for, is shooting through energy shields, and it does a spectacular job for that purpose. All right, next we have the Hemlock. This is part of the medieval set, and this is our resident SMG, one of my favorite SMGs in the entire game. In fact, because this is a mechanical weapon, the stability of this weapon will blow your freaking mind. When you pull the trigger on this gun, most guns you will be used to seeing the crosshair go from 0 to horrific. But on this gun, the gun starts out with a bloom that is immediately unappealing. You're like, oh wow, this doesn't have like perfect accuracy. And then you realize that it never ever changes. Now, what does this mean? It means that this gun, the accuracy never changes whether you are running or standing still or holding the trigger down. The bloom on this gun stays exactly the same all the time and never wavers, making this one of the most consistently accurate guns that you could fire over a long period of time. And it has a great 61 mag size, an amazing 9.9 fire rate, a wicked 43% chance to crit with a rockin' 345% crit damage. The base damage is solid at 8,000 with 10,000 headshot. So not really, it doesn't need to hit headshots to get the majority of its damage. You get a little bit more damage out of headshots, but aiming center mass on this one is what it's designed for. The best loadout for this weapon is a crit rate, double crit damage, mag size loadout. And this gun is just all around one of my favorite SMGs in the entire game. You could even argue my favorite SMG. I freaking love this gun, and everyone is gonna love this gun. Now, this gun recently received a huge boost with the Core Perk Edition, allowing you to, initially, you get to choose between you have an increasing shield or you have shield regeneration. But now there's a third, much more powerful effect, and that is the landing 5 hits in a row on a single target causes a small explosion. This is the Bundlebuss passive. That's right, guys, the Hemlock can be equipped with the Bundlebuss passive, making pretty much my favorite SMG even more favorite. This thing is absolutely ludicrous. When you are punching this thing into a smasher or a miss monster, into a big target, the damage explosions are going to hit everything around that target, doing more damage to that target and to every adjacent enemy within a half-tile radius, making this gun just, oh my god. Have fun. Alright, next we have the Husk Buster. This is a fantastic weapon, also part of the scavenger set, which makes this one basically a reskin of our classic set weapons, except cheaper and better. It is exactly the same as your classics, except that it's going to cost you less to craft, and that makes this gun just absolutely top tier, man. Top tier. Nothing like getting the guns that you love for less. The ultimate loadout for this one is double damage, magazine size, and damage to miss monsters and bosses. I love this one because this one actually can get a headshot elimination explosion, allowing you to one shot right in the face and kill all the little enemies around that target, making this gun just an absolute monster for close range combat. You are going to freaking love this gun. All right, next we have the Black Metal Axe, the Husk Grinder. This thing's perk loadout is crit rate, crit damage, heavy attack efficiency, and of course, up to 80% bonus damage based on how injured you are. Man, oh man, what do you say about this one besides good lord? The damage on this weapon is just absolutely ludicrous. If you're fighting against nature enemies especially, this is probably the most powerful spin-to-win anti-nature destroyer in the entire game. This thing is just ludicrously powerful. The spinning powers of this weapon is so hard-hitting and so lethal, comboed with the fact that it gets even stronger the more damage you take. It's hard to compete with this freak show. This thing's a 48% chance to crit with 210% bonus crit damage, and it's just, yeah, it's a nightmare, man. This is one of my all-time favorite spin to win weapons, and you guys, when you guys finally get a chance to use this one, you're gonna realize just how crazy this weapon really is. All right, next we have the Hydra. Now, this is a super unique weapon. My favorite loadout with this one is triple damage with reload speed. Now, you can get rid of the reload speed and switch it up for another damage if you want, but I really like having the fast 1.5 second reload. I feel like it really fuels this gun, and unless you're finding that you're missing those headshots by just a little bit of damage, it's usually better to go with the reload speed to keep this gun always in combat and blazing. Now, the thing that is really special about this weapon is that it's an assault rifle, but it uses shotgun shells, and it kind of fires like a shotgun. It's very special. This thing is a hybrid weapon. It fires a tight cluster of pellets, and it does a lot of knockback. But really, the thing that makes this gun super shine is the fact that it does so much damage per shot. Like a normal assault rifle fires many shots, right? Very quickly, but usually only does about 10,000 damage per shot. This thing does 45,000 damage per shot on me. So it does over 4 times the damage. So even though it has a very low fire rate, it does very high damage per bullet. Now, this is very impressive when you get a headshot elimination, because the passive on this weapon is that headshot eliminations causes an explosion that does damage to all surrounding enemies within a half-tile radius. This is deadly. You can easily just pop head after head after head, and because of the extremely high headshot damage bonus, this thing can clear out waves of enemies with ease, making this one of the most unique and powerful assault rifles ever made. It's a fascinating weapon that came from the hydraulic set, and to this day, it is a super unique, fun experience. I wouldn't say that this is a god tier weapon, but there is a lot that you can do with this weapon that you just can't do with other ones, and anybody who gets this in as a part of their collection is going to really enjoy having such a powerful alternative playstyle that you really can't get with any other guns. It's something really special. All right, guys, next we have the Jackal launcher. I've had a lot of things to say about this weapon in the past. I'd like to talk crap about this one a lot, but the fact of the matter is that the Jackal launcher is actually a very good weapon. The reason that I talk trash about it is because it's very overvalued. This is definitely not one of the most powerful launchers in the game, but at the same time, it is one of the best weapons in the game. If you load this with a full damage loadout, 4 damage in the perks, this is actually one of the best fire options that most players have. Anybody who's done the Fort Nightmares and unlocked this one by filling in the collection book, will be very happy using this weapon. It is extremely powerful, it is extremely fun, and even though it is not the best fire launcher in the game, it is a top tier weapon with a great cosmetic, a hilarious evil laugh, and you guys are going to love this powerhouse weapon, the Jackal Launcher. Alright guys, next we're talking about the Jack's Revenge. Jack's Revenge is one of the most powerful headshot cannons in the history of the game. It is a terrifying weapon. And this thing is really, really unique. It has some synergy with the Corsair as a pistol and sword combo to amplify the headshot damage. This thing actually has a passive which the headshot eliminations boost the critical hit chance of the sword attacks for 15 seconds, which is, really insane. Now, the perk loadout for this gun is reload, crit rate, crit damage. Just amazing, man. You really need the reload speed to fire this gun as fast as possible. Although if you're going to go with just a highlight reel, then you can go and perk this thing just for maximum damage, just a maximum headshot, blow a head right off. Just trying to one-shot kill smashers and stuff. Just go for the maximum. That is an option as well. But yeah, for me personally, I like to go with the reload speed so that you actually get to fire this thing as much as possible. And the double crit damage build, it makes it just a cannon. The thing has a pretty high passive crit rate, making it a 43% chance to crit, which is not bad, right? 43% chance to crit is really high. And then when you do get those crits, the crits are going to be insane. But you got to hit your headshots, guys, because this one has a massive headshot multiplier. And when you hit that headshot and get that crit simultaneously, you're going to experience some truly cataclysmic level damage. And next on the list is the Killjoy, one of the Art Deco weapons. And man, oh man, what an absolute monster this weapon is. This one came out of nowhere. The Art Deco set being one of the greatest elemental destroyer sets of all time, with their insane passives giving them 44 bonus damage against one of the 3 different elemental loadouts. It's just whew, damn, man. These things are nasty. But what's even worse and crazier about the Killjoy that makes it so good is that it has an enhanced crit rate. So it actually rocks a 43% crit rate with a crit build. But even more than that, this is the very first sword ever made that is a Maelstrom / Whirlwind weapon. That's a big deal, considering swords are universally pretty much the most loved melee weapons in the game. There is now an option to have a Whirlwind sword, meaning you can carry your best single target damage sword and then switch to a Whirlwind sword to go and spread out your skill set, which is crazy, right? It's crazy. Being able to Whirlwind on a sword, it just opens up so much possibilities. And the sheer damage of this thing is just mind-blowing. Like, oh my god. Just so powerful. With this sword, all you need to do is hold the button down and spin to win. You can spin and spin and spin and murder everything into the ground. If you're using the right kind of build with this weapon, you can spin pretty much forever. Alright, so the perk loadout for the Killjoy is crit rate, double crit damage, and damage. Just a monster loadout. The Longarm Enforcer is another of our classic set shotguns that's been around forever. This one is very special because of its extreme range. When they say Longarm Enforcer, they mean long range enforcer. This thing has a 3600, almost a 3700 range, which means longer range shotgun than any other shotgun in the entire game. This is absolutely top tier, fantastic shotgun. It has a fairly slow fire rate and a very hard hitting attack. Pretty good damage to the head. You definitely want to make sure you do aim for the head when you're using this shotgun. But overall, with the impact of this weapon, it's going to wipe targets out like crazy, extremely fast. Because of its because of its slow fire rate, I find this much more effective to use as a flat damage weapon instead of a crit damage weapon, because you don't want to be at the mercy of bad luck relying on crits to get your kills. This is not a single target damage weapon, so you're not going to need that massive top end damage to take down the big targets. This is more of a long range suppression shotgun to wipe out waves and waves of enemies as they come in to attack you. Once you get to closer range, you'll switch to a closer range shotgun. The best loadout that you can use for the Longarm Enforcer is a double damage magazine size and damage to slowed and snared. Alright guys, next we have the Lynx. The best loadout for this one is crit rate, double crit damage, and reload speed. You can also put, instead of reload speed, if you prefer mag size, you can definitely go with mag size. That is another option. You got to kind of tune this gun the way that you like it specifically. This one, you can go either way. You can go reload, mag size, damage. All three of them are perfectly fine and extremely powerful. Now, the key with this gun is if you want this gun to be one of the top tier, most powerful guns of the game, you are going to have to perk it into a specific element counter. Now, the advantage that this gun has over guns like the Gammatron, which is a very similar gun, they're both fully automatic burst weapons. You can hold the trigger down and fire like crazy, but they fire in bursts. So in order for this gun to compete with the Gammatron, it can't. As an energy versus energy weapon, the Gammatron is more powerful. It is a better weapon. However, this one does not use energy ammo. This one also has the ability to perk into an elemental specific counter, and when you do that, this gun actually becomes more powerful than the Gammatron. So that's the key to the Lynx. The Lynx is actually super dangerous, but you have to perk it specifically to destroy a certain enemy type. The gun itself is very powerful. With a reload speed bonus, you get a 1.5 reload, which is just blazing fast. 30 mag is rock solid. You don't need to have a massive magazine because the fire rate on this gun is actually under 5, which is very interesting. The crit rate and crit damage because of the perk loaded is absolutely outstanding, and the actual damage of this gun is very strong, and it does favor headshots. It has a quite a huge damage bonus when you are hitting headshots with this weapon, so you really need to make sure that you hit your shots in order to harness the maximum damage potential of the Lynx. It is a great gun. Alright, so the Maverick is another one of our classic set double-barreled shotguns. This one is really good. It has a very wide spread. It boasts a little bit more than the minimum range. Instead of having a 700 range, this actually boasts a 1200 range. So a little bit more range than, say, the Thunderbolt, while also boasting a really good rate of fire. This one kind of lands in as slightly a happy medium. It kind of balances, giving you more range with your double-barreled pumps. Double barrels are designed to wipe out groups, like full groups of enemies, hitting tons and tons of stuff. So if you want to get one of those double barrel experiences of massive group clearing, but with a little bit more range, then this one is an excellent choice. The best loadout that I have used for this gun is a double damage, reload, and damage to slowed and snared. Highly effective and incredibly lethal at clearing tons of medium to small size enemies. Alright, next we have the Mercury LMG. This gun is spectacular. The only real problem with this gun is that it's energy ammo. Really, that's it. The fact that it's energy ammo is going to really deter a lot of people from using this one, but it's really a spectacular gun. For people who haven't got their hands on the Mythics yet, this one is so powerful. It's not even that bad on energy ammo, considering that the fire rate is under 7, which is, you know, phenomenally slow. So it is fairly efficient on ammo as far as, you know, assault rifles go. And this has the greatest LMG loadout of any gun, of any LMG ever. This is basically the exact same loadout as the Candy Corn LMG, which is a crit rate, double crit damage, mag-sized loadout. Now, the downside to the Mercury LMG is that this is only ever going to be an energy weapon, which means it'll never be an elemental-specific counter. So you'll never get that super god level damage, but it is the jack of all trades when it comes to just sheer, oh, it's so powerful, man. It's so powerful. Now, what also makes this gun really truly special is the passive of landing 5 hits in a row on a single target causes a small explosion, dealing damage to enemies within a half tile radius. What this means is if you shoot a big target over and over again, it'll cause explosions, killing all the smaller enemies around that target and doing bonus damage to that enemy. It is one of the most powerful passives in the entire game. It is the Bundlebuss passive, and it is, yeah, definitely not to be underestimated. It is just so nuts. This gun is amazing. All right, next we have the Metal Marauder, the single most damaging rocket launcher in the entire game if you are injured. The perk loadout on this one is just, you have a lot of choices, honestly, but my personal favorite is definitely going to be the triple damage and the bonus damage up to 80% when you are missing health. For me personally, when I'm running rocket launchers, I want super consistency. I want to shoot a rocket and I want everything to die every single time. And because of that, I don't take crit. I don't do crit builds. I always do flat damage across the board, and it just works so good. It's so consistent and so devastating. This one here is just one of the most fun weapons that you'll ever use. The explosion radius is very nice. The damage is just unmitigated carnage. You are going to have a ball with the Metal Marauder. You get to choose between physical and fire, meaning this is going to be your basically your rocket launcher of choice whenever you're fighting against nature enemies. And when you start getting really low on health, you're going to see some super highlight numbers that come out of this weapon. It is just a mind-blowing tool of destruction, which you guys are going to absolutely love. All right, so next we have the Neon Sniper Rifle. Now, the Neon Sniper Rifle is an absolutely fascinating weapon. Just like the Obliterator, it can shoot through absolutely anything. However, the Neon Sniper Rifle is the only weapon in the entire game that you can also see through anything. When you aim down the sights on the Neon Sniper Rifle, you will actually get an X-ray scope that can see right through walls and can see where the enemies are going, even when you have mountains, walls, buildings, anything in between you and them. You can see exactly where they are, and you can shoot them right in their stupid heads. The Neon Sniper Rifle is an extraordinarily fun weapon that is incredibly powerful, and if you ever get the chance to get this weapon, you get it immediately. If for nothing else than debugging an encampment mission where something spawns under the map, you can look through the ground, see that enemy, shoot it in the face, and then get on with your day. That alone makes this weapon worth its weight in gold. However, this weapon is a absolute home run weapon. The perk loadout for this one is 4 damage. That will make the damage on this weapon just actually surpass the Obliterator. This gun will actually do more damage than the Obliterator. The damage is actually the same as the Obliterator, but with an even larger headshot multiplier. So doing like 100,000 damage with a 200,000 headshot with the Obliterator, this one does 100,000 damage with 250,000 damage headshot. So the headshot multiplier is just out of control on this gun. The downside with this gun is that you have a 15 magazine and you use up 3 ammo every time you shoot it. Now, this is a problem because the ammo is energy ammo, so it does burn through your pocket a little bit faster than other weapons, but again, you're getting to see through walls. So is it really a problem? Probably not. Now, you can change the passive perk on this weapon to get headshot eliminations causes an explosion, which is obviously the most powerful sniper rifle passive perk in the game, because it allows you to shoot one enemy and kill all of them. It's the mini remover. Whenever you kill an enemy with a headshot, all the mini husks around that one get annihilated in the explosion, and that makes this gun just, man, that makes that perk just absolutely invaluable. So if you ever plan on using this gun, you know, as a main weapon, you're probably going to want to use your core perk to switch over to that, because it is so much more powerful. All right, the Nightclaw is another classic set weapon. This one is very, very powerful, and I use it for a slightly different purpose. This one here does not have the spread that the Bear has. It is more of a single target killing weapon. though it does have longer range. This one actually boasts a 3,000 range compared to the normal 2,000 range of most shotguns, so it is a little bit longer ranged. The damage is very, very high, boasting pretty huge headshot damage. And with this one here, I actually went with a headshot elimination. This one, what this allows you to do, because you're focusing more on single targets, when you get that headshot elimination, it explodes, killing a lot of enemies around it, giving this actually some pretty hefty AoE clearing strength, but forces you to use a slightly different build. Because it's a one shot per second, it's not really viable to go with a damage to slowed and snared. So what I did is I went with damage to missed monsters and bosses, and I complemented it with that headshot elimination explosion. The loadout for this one is double damage, magazine size, damage to missed monsters and bosses. And I find this one to be incredibly satisfying. Really has a good shotgun feel with a little bit more range than the other ones are used to. And because of the headshot explosion and the higher damage, it really allows you to clear out a lot of enemies very effectively. Alright, next we have the Night Owl. This one has a rockin' perk loaded of crit rate, double crit damage, and bonus damage the weaker that you get, making this the single most damaging bow in the entire game so long as you are injured. This thing is a nightmare of just absolute carnage. In the hands of Stoneheart Farah, you can one-shot kill entire gruesome enemies like nothing. If you pull off a headshot, you'll watch whole crowds of even super powerful enemies just get devastated by the awesome power of the Night Owl. This thing is a terrifying weapon, and you can load it out with either physical damage or with fire damage, making this the ultimate anti-nature killing, murder weapon for all you bow fans out there. All right, next we have the Novo Launcher, the obliterator of rocket launchers. This gun has been something truly special since the day it came out, and to this day, there's nothing like it. Can you imagine a rocket launcher that shoots a plasma beam, a horizontal plasma beam that can go through anything? Anything. Anything. And the longer you hold the trigger down, the bigger that plasma, the wider that beam gets until it hits a maximum, the maximum size, and just completely wipes out an entire wave of enemies until forever. Yeah, that's the Novo Launcher. This gun is crazy. The ultimate loadout for this one is triple crit or triple damage. Triple damage, and then it's up to you how you want to perk the last one. Except for the life of me, I can't decide which one I like better. Fire rate is amazing because it allows you to get to that maximum width beam really, really quickly. However, crit rate can get you extra damage. Reload speed can get you, reload the gun quicker so that you can start charging it faster. So it really depends on how you want to perk this one. There's no right or wrong answer. All three of those abilities are just absolutely amazing, and this gun is truly a one-of-a-kind experience of absolute god-level powers. The Novo Launcher is one of the greatest, and probably will maintain as one of the greatest rocket launchers of all time because of its ability to shoot through literally everything. You can hit more enemies with this rocket than any other rocket in the entire game. Hands down, no question. All right, next we have the Obliterator. My all-time favorite sniper rifle in the entire game. My all-time most used weapon in the entire game. The Obliterator and the Baron pretty much never leave my weapon bar. I always have a weapon plus the Obliterator and the Baron. And the reason for that is because the Obliterator is the most versatile destroyer of worlds in the game. This thing can one-shot buildings. So any structure that you shoot, one-shot kill. This weapon can shoot through anything, be it a husk, be it a player wall, be it a mountain, or a shield, or a riot, or whatever, anything at all. This gun can shoot through everything and hit everything in a line. Whatever it shoots through gets smashed. This is not the most powerful, hardest This is not the hardest hitting, most powerful sniper rifle in the entire game, but it is hands down the most versatile and useful sniper rifle in the game. The damage is spectacular, don't get me wrong. It's got a 2x multiplier, so if you hit a headshot, double damage straight up, blows the heads off of enemies. It is everything that you want in a sniper, and every sniper rifle forever will be compared to and will be judged based on how good it is compared to the Obliterator. The best perk loadout for this gun is, in my opinion, actually damage, reload, and mag size. This is a big change from my loadouts of old. I used to run this with double crit rate, double crit damage to get those absolutely insane crits. But I have realized that I don't like relying on crit rate when it comes to really slow firing weapons. It just doesn't do it for me at all. Shooting your cannon and doing 0 damage is very discouraging and very frustrating, and it can really destroy your whole flow. You know, it doesn't matter if you get a nuclear warhead that blows the head off of an enemy, when you can just do consistent damage and pretty much one-shot kill anything. Anyway, you know, whenever you miss one kill because of a bad crit or multiple in a row because of, you know, bad luck, it just throws off your entire game. So what I've been doing is I've just been running flat damage on all of my slow-firing weapons, be that rocket launchers, shotguns, sniper rifles. I really like flat damage. And since I've been using flat damage on the Obliterator, I found it to be much more versatile and much more useful, and I've been leaning on it much more heavily because of how consistent and deadly this weapon is. The double damage with reload and mag size means that you'll be able to fire quite, 7 shots and then reload that 7 shots in 2 seconds, which is just so insane. Like, this gun is so deadly and so useful with this loadout. You guys are going to fall in love with this thing all over again, and that's assuming you already didn't think it was one of the best weapons in Save the World history. Alright, next we have the Old Betsy, one of the most lethal, killer, headshot destroying sniper rifles in the entire game. This is the Hunter rifle style, this is the Hunter rifle stylized sniper rifle with no scope that has a massive headshot multiplier, allowing you to completely just blow the brains out of anything that gets in your way. My favorite loadout for this gun is actually double reload, double damage. And of course, with the headshot elimination explosion effect. This allows you to do maximum damage to every enemy you hit, regardless of whether you hit them with a body shot or a headshot, giving you the ability to one-shot kill most smaller enemies, even if you don't hit the head. And then when you do hit the head, it is basically a one-shot kill or a 2-shot kill, depending on the size of the target. The other amazing thing is that when you get these headshot eliminations, you basically wipe out all small enemies in the vicinity, making this also a very proficient crowd clearing tool, which is kind of unusual for a sniper rifle. Also, being that it has no scope, the scope zoom is very effective even at close range, making this a very precise, very universally usable sniper rifle. One of my all-time favorites, and you guys are going to absolutely love this weapon. Alright, next we have the Old Smoky. Alright, the best perk loadout for the Old Smoky is double damage, reload speed, and damage to slowed and snared. Now, this gun is a really special experience because it is essentially a reskin of one of the classic set guns. And the difference is that this one is exactly the same, but cheaper to craft. That's really what makes the scavenger weapons special, is that all of the scavenger weapons are reskins of the original classic set guns, but with a lower durability and a lower crafting cost. When you go and do the numbers, the crafting cost is actually, even with the reduced durability, is vastly in your favor. So you can craft all the weapons that you love, but for much cheaper, allowing you to farm for much less. The Old Smoky is a double-barrel shotgun that hits a wide area of enemies, doing a pile of damage, and is an absolute champ which everybody who uses it is going to love. All right, the Pain Train is a crowd favorite, an insanely powerful weapon with a deadly ramping passive. Makes this one just an absolute beast. The other reason that people love this is just cosmetically. This gun looks like a train, it sounds like a train, and it is super, super entertaining and fun to use. The perk loadout on this gun is absolutely awesome. Rocking a crit rate, double crit damage loadout. Also giving you the option that when you modify the perks, you can choose either between damage mag or reload, depending on how you want to run this weapon. Each shot fired, stacking up to 15 times. As long as you fire 1 shot per second, you can maintain that ramping damage effect for an extended, until your magazine runs out. This gun has an excellent 4,000 range, basically making this gun just a better Gravedigger, honestly. This gun is basically a replacement for the Gravedigger in virtually every possible way. It is an absolute monster weapon. Alright, next we have the Pepper Sprayer. This one is one of my all-time favorite SMGs in the entire game, boasting the fastest reload of any SMG. Also, with an excellent 4,000 range, a fast fire rate, a decent magazine size. Really, the only downside is the amount of damage and headshot damage that this weapon does. That, for me personally, is completely, rectified by the amazing perk loadout, and also just the super, super high sustained damage of having that crazy fast reload speed. The best perk loadout for this one is crit rate, double crit damage, and damage. You do have some other options if you didn't want to go with the damage to try to boost that low flat damage. You can actually switch it over to a double crit rate, or you can switch it over to a damage to slowed and snared, or even a damage to missile monsters and bosses. Now, my personal favorite for this gun is actually the slowed and snared passive. When you have the slowed and snared passive comboed with damage to slowed and snared enemies, you get that 45% damage bonus, which is just absolutely nuts. However, the other way to go is to use a 30% damage always, so you're missing out on 15% damage, but then you can go and use the standing still passive perk that gives you enhanced damage the longer you stand still. So whenever you're standing in a doorway blocking a zone, you can actually build up to a maximum of 55% bonus damage against enemies, which is especially valuable when you're taking on mini bosses that are sitting inside of your base. You stand right beside them, you build up that 55% bonus damage, and just basically, unload on their face. So this one does have a lot of versatility and play depending on how you want to build it. There are a lot of completely viable options depending on your preferences. All in all, absolutely god tier weapon. Amazing. All right, another gun that people don't actually talk about very often is the Pop Shot. The Pop Shot is actually a absolutely terrifying weapon. Just terrifying. This thing fires quickly. This thing hits like a truck. It is a nasty, nasty weapon. It's one of the faster firing destroyers. And there are a lot of different ways that you can actually perk this one out. My personal favorite with pretty much all shotguns is to focus mostly on damage. However, being that this one has only 2 options for damage perks, I decided to go with the crit rate, crit damage, and magazine size on this gun. This makes the gun so that it has actually a very, very good reload speed. You always want to put mag size on weapons that load slugs. When you have a slug reloading weapon, the reload time of 4 seconds is always going to be 4 seconds, whether you're reloading a 2 magazine or a 50 magazine. So the bigger the mag size, the faster you'll reload the individual slugs, making mag size also double up as a reload mechanic as well. All in all, this gun is absolutely monstrous, and anyone who god rolls it will see that it is just a top tier powerhouse in their arsenal. So don't be fooled by the fact that it looks and sounds like a toy, because this gun is no joke. All right, next we have the Pot Shot. The pot shot, I think, became world famous when we saw the pot shot, you know, be a part of the solo Storm King build. When you basically, the realization that you can double pump this, you can basically shoot your shots, switch weapons, shoot your shots, and then switch those weapons for fresh weapons, and just keep shooting without ever having to reload these weapons. The damage output became apparent, you know, is just insane, right? It's so insane. This gun is just ludicrously powerful, guys. It's a proximity grenade launcher, so if the shot gets anywhere near an enemy, it explodes, doing full damage. My personal favorite loadout with this gun is going to be 4 damage, because I love the consistency. I love shooting at enemies and knowing that it's going to kill everything. All of these small enemies and medium enemies are going to get obliterated. It's not dependent on crits, which is nice. This gun is just the undisputed, you know, monster of grenade launchers, if you can even call it a grenade launcher. This thing is more like a rocket launcher than a grenade launcher. It's crazy. And you even have the passives of standing in place enhances the damage even more, as if you even needed more damage on this weapon. This weapon is absolutely top tier. A lot of people are going to probably end up getting this weapon. If they don't have it, they're probably going to end up using their weapon vouchers to pull this one out, because of just the insane versatility and power that this brings to the table. Just insane weapon. All right, guys, next we have the Pulsar 9000. This freaking gun, man. This gun has often been dubbed the mythic shotgun because it is a energy god weapon. This is basically a handheld rocket launcher, except with a shotgun tag. This thing destroys, man. Destroys groups of enemies like nothing. It is so powerful and so nasty and so gross. Oh, you are going to fall in love. The ultimate loadout for this one is damage, is a crit rate, crit damage, damage, and reload speed. Alternatively, you could also go with a 4 times damage, which is actually, in my opinion, probably a better loadout. I've been switching over all of my shotguns to pure damage, and I gotta say, I freaking love it. The consistency of not having to worry about crits, especially on weapons that are clearing mass amounts of mid to small enemies, for me is a way better trade-off. I'm not real worried about doing the maximum damage that you can against really, really large targets, especially when you're using a weapon like this that is an AoE. It's not designed to kill a single big target, so having, you know, flat damage, it's just a way better situation. Now with this one here, this one can also change the support perk. You can either go with the projectiles, the expanding rings, or you can go with well, what I think is most interesting is the ramping crit rate. You can either go with the ramping crit rate, or you can go with actual shield regeneration based on your crits. So if you do decide to go with the crit build, having shield regeneration can really, really increase your survivability and your ability to sustain in horde situations. Either that or ramping crit. I mean, both are just absolutely nuts, right? So you have a lot of options for core reperk on this one. And holy cow, is this a beast of a weapon. All right, so the next on the list is the Ranger. Now, the Ranger is interesting because normally I am not a fan of semi-automatic weapons, and this is a burst semi-automatic weapon. Now, the reason that this one still makes my list is because it's actually a very satisfying weapon to use. Even though I feel like the fire rate is, you know, it's very high. You know, 9.93 is a very high fire rate. It is a burst fire rate, and the reason that this works so well is because the stopping power is actually greater than that of the Siegebreaker or the Razor Leaf. This thing actually does more damage, hits harder, and has more stopping power than either of those other two weapons. So even though it is a semi-automatic weapon, it is more powerful, and it definitely makes the list. This is a fun, powerful weapon to use that actually has extremely high range for an assault rifle. This one actually has 5,000 range compared to the typical 4,000 of an AR. Extremely high headshot damage, so if you can hit the heads, it's going to do amazing damage. Not to mention, the crit chance is higher than your average weapon as well. So this one's actually going to do even more crits and more damage when it crits. The best perk loadout for the Ranger is crit rate, crit damage, and damage to afflicted or slowed and snared. Same as the other two.
Alright, next we have the Rat-a-Tat. This is a Rat Rod weapon. This is essentially a slightly modified reskin of the Viper. It's not identical, but it's very, very similar. Fires in exactly the same way. Just has slightly tweaked stats, but pretty much does the same thing. I like the Rat-a-Tat better because of the cosmetic and because of the sound that this weapon makes. I favor it heavily over the Viper in that way. The perk loadout for this one is a crit rate, a double crit damage, mag size loadout, and with the addition of Core Reperk, you can actually modify the passive on this weapon to have a ramping damage or crit rate bonus on this, making this weapon stronger than it has ever been. Just an absolutely insanely powered, super close range SMG. This one has a 2500 range, so you want to make sure you get in close, and the fire rate on this gun is just absolutely disgusting. Like 13.5. It shreds hard. Great gun.
Next, we have the Razor Blade. The Razor Blade is going to be a very, very similar weapon, but this is the burst variant. So, for those of you who like burst weapons, this one is going to be like right up your alley. The Razor Blade is a fully auto burst weapon, so you can hold the trigger down and it fires in bursts, and it is a very, very much the same type of feel as the Siegebreaker. The perk loadout for this one is crit rate, crit damage, and damage to slowed and snared or afflicted targets. The fire rate on this one is a little bit slower, so the damage per bullet is actually a little bit higher, which I personally like more.
And next we have the Riptide. Alright, so if you love the Thrasher, you're gonna freaking love this gun. This is the Thrasher, except this is the Scavenger variant of this gun, making it a cheaper, better gun. It is exactly the same gun that you know, but it will cost you less to craft and use it. This gun is an incredible loadout: crit rate, crit damage, and damage to slowed and snared. This gun has one of the highest burst damage experiences that you will ever have. The damage and headshot damage for this gun are fantastic. The loadout is fantastic. The range is fantastic. It's just a really, really solid, amazing gun. It does incredible damage. The only weakness that this has is a small magazine size on a really fast firing gun, so you're going to instantly empty your magazine. And the other thing is that you have to really watch your bloom. If you're not careful, the bloom can cause you to miss a lot of shots. So you got to be close. As long as you're close, this thing is going to tear enemies in half. Easily one of the most powerful SMGs in the entire game.
Alright, next on the list is the Room Sweeper. Now, the Room Sweeper and the Tiger Jaw are two peas in a pod. These things are very, very similar. The main difference between the Room Sweeper and the Tiger Jaw is that the Tiger Jaw boasts a bigger magazine size with a faster fire rate. This means that you're going to use a lot more ammo using this weapon. So it is for sure a more expensive weapon to use. But the advantage comes to, because it has a larger magazine size, you can build this perk loadout with magazine to give this gun absolutely unrivaled sustained damage, allowing you to fire this thing for extended periods of time, cutting down an astounding number of enemies before you have to go for that reload, which in my opinion makes the Rune Sweeper actually more powerful than the Tiger Jaw, and is one of my all-time favorite shotguns in the entire game for fully automatic options. This gun feels very much like an assault rifle, except with a bigger area of effect and a shorter range, making this one just absolutely one of the greatest guns of all time. I think this gun is incredible. If it's your passion to play at close range and have a fully automatic damage puking monster weapon,
that has a great magazine capacity to keep on firing, then this is definitely the gun for you. It has a drum, so when you reload the weapon, you reload the entire magazine all at once, just like an AR. The best perk loadout for this weapon is definitely crit rate, crit damage, magazine size, and damage to slowed and snared. We have the Siegebreaker. The Siegebreaker is one of the first weapons that you will encounter in the game. It is a classic set assault rifle, and it's absolutely fantastic. It's a great weapon. It doesn't keep up with some of the the new best guns in the game, but it is a solid staple that everyone is very comfortable using, and it does it is a very effective, fun weapon to use. The perk loadout that you want to use for this guy is a crit rate, crit damage with a damage to slowed and snared or damage to afflicted targets. You have to pick one of the status effects if you want to get the maximum punch out of this weapon. The reason why this weapon is so well liked is because it's a fully automatic assault rifle with a good high rate of fire. Just a very, very comfortable weapon to use. All right, guys, next we have the Silenced Spectre. Oh man, this is a notorious gun, part of the military set, rocking a 48% chance to crit, 3,500 range, blazing fire rate, extraordinary headshot damage, especially for an SMG. This gun is just a freak. Oh, this gun's strong. The best loadout for this one is crit rate, crit damage, mag size, and damage to slowed and snared. Man, just a powerhouse. Such a powerhouse. Everyone who uses this gun loves this gun. It is a crowd favorite. It has always been one of the top SMGs. Depending on your playstyle, this will be the favorites for some people. And it could go pretty much there's like a 3 or 4 way tie for the top SMG. Just, you're going to have people arguing between semantics of, I like this style better than this style. Absolute god tier weapon. When you get this weapon, use it. You will love it. All right, and finally moving on to the Sod Buster, the Art Deco launcher. And let me tell you guys, you just forget about it. This thing is the destroyer, man. If you want to get a rocket launcher with a great perk loadout that just absolutely obliterates everything medium-sized or smaller, look no further, because the Sod Buster has the answer for you. Rocking the 44% bonus damage against a specific element. You just have to build this one with 4 damage. It's so simple. 4 damage makes this a 100% consistent, every shot's a kill shot. This isn't designed to, take down giants. This is designed to clear the field of battles in a spectacular fashion. And this gun does it. Oh, it does it so well. If you know what element of enemy you're going to be taking on, you can bring this weapon into the field and just guarantee that crowds of enemies will just crumble before you like nothing. The Sod Buster is top tier. All right, next we have the Spectral Blade, one of my favorite melee weapons of all time, the most powerful water sword in the entire game, hands down. Now, the ultimate perk loadout is a Paleo Luna loadout, and that's what we're using right here. The 3 times attack speed, 1 times crit damage build. This thing is just absolutely freaking insane. This sword is so obscenely powerful in the water slot. There's just nothing like it. And if that wasn't enough, you can now change the passive perk to have a ramping damage or ramping crit rate effect that stacks up to 5 times, making this even more insane than it already was, and it was already extremely nuts. So this is crazy, man. This sword is absolutely just so good. So good. All right, next we have the Spyglass. This one is basically a scoped Old Betsy. So if you like the Old Betsy, except that you wish that you had the super long range obliterator scope attached to it, well, this is the gun for you. very ineffective at short range unless you're planning on no-scoping your enemies. This one has all of the headshot, murdering, destroying power of the old Betsy. It is essentially the exact same weapon. It has my favorite perk loadout for this one is double reload speed, double damage. This will give you an insanely fast, rate of fire with super consistent offensive damage. And of course, if you hit a headshot on this weapon, the damage multiplier is absolutely freaking nuts. So this is easily one of the most powerful snipers in the entire game, and I absolutely love it. Alright guys, now we're talking about the legend, Stabsworth III, the most devastating classic set melee weapon in the history of the game. This thing is so strong that to this day, it is one of the top 3 melee weapons ever. This thing is a monster. The beauty of this weapon is that you can perk it into any element that you want. It has the fastest attack speed of any weapon. Yeah, it's just startlingly fast. Like, this thing is blazing, but also I love how it says minimum stagger potential. Because this thing has such low stagger, it will never knock enemies out of your attack. So as you're attacking through enemies with this sword, you're going to basically just absolutely cut them into shreds. Like, it's freaking hilarious. This thing's so nuts and so strong. The ultimate loadout that you can use with this one is a double attack speed, damage, and damage to slowed and snared. Use whatever element you want. Although, for me personally, I use the mythic sword for physical. I use the spectral sword for water, and then I use the fire and nature sword for the Stabsworth III. Unless you are one of the founders who got your hands on the Founder's Mass Immune, and then you can use that one for fire. Still, this one will still be your #1 nature melee killer in the game. So, man oh man, just an awesome weapon. It is so good that I actually have 8 god-rolled versions of this sword in my set because I just love it. 4 for Shadow Shard, 4 for Bright Core. I have used this sword over and over and over, and I just absolutely love it, and I guarantee you will too. Alright, so next we have the Staccato Shadow. This is a boombox shotgun, fully automatic, with full piercing effect. This means that you can hit lines of enemies and just absolutely decimate entire crowds with the insane power of this weapon. Now, this is a drum style reload, as opposed to a lot of the shotguns slug style, meaning you reload the entire magazine all at once. It has an okay reload time on the magazine and a really solid fire rate, making this gun absolutely one of the most powerful shotguns in the entire game. This thing will, oh man, it's addictive. Honestly, it's a really addictive gun. You can build this gun into any element you want, so it can be one of the strongest shotguns that you can possibly use. The other thing that really sets this gun aside from other shotguns is the fact that it has nearly 3,600 range compared to the usual 2,000 range of most shotguns. And that puts this gun, at the upper echelon of fully auto shotgun carnage. Like, just a crowd-destroying monster. The best perk loadout for this weapon is crit rate, double crit damage with damage. If you don't like the 2.7 reload time of the Staccato Shadow, you can opt to switch from the 30% damage to the 75% faster reload speed, which will give you much more sustained damage and keep you firing much more often. But if you want to get the most amount of damage per bullet per magazine, then using the 30% damage will be the way that you want to go. Alright, next we have the Stalwart Squire. Now, the Stalwart Squire is just an absolutely fantastic gun. This thing has so many different applications and so many different ways that you can use it. My favorite loadout for this one is triple damage with reload speed. This makes it so that the reload is not too bad, right? You can fire a shot every 1.5 seconds, which is pretty solid. This gun is kind of interesting, actually, because this gun is one of the few guns in the entire game where you have the ability to load this one into a crit rate, crit damage, crit damage, crit damage. It's actually a triple crit damage weapon, which is insane, right? Absolutely insane. If you load this with triple crit damage, the damage that you can do on your top end crits is amongst the highest that you can possibly do, because crit damage loadouts are so rare. Yeah, it's crazy. However, the downside is a really bad reload, making it not very viable, right? If you have a gun that shoots super slowly and is only good when it crits, then you're gonna probably die, because you're gonna go for these highlight shots that do such insane damage, but it's not really a realistic way to play. Realistically, a better way to play is with reload, so it's a consistent, rapid firing weapon. Put triple damage so you're not dependent on crit in order to do well, and you'll find this gun will just absolutely shred everything. Now, you could alternatively go and put 4 damage on this weapon, which is an interesting loadout if you want to go with Chromium Ramirez, which actually, every time that you empty your magazine, which is a mag size of 1, you will get 50% faster reload, allowing you to reload this gun super fast, but also have all that crazy damage. So that's another really viable option, and will also regenerate your shield. So great loadout for a great weapon. Alright guys, so the next on the list is another classic set weapon called the Stampede. This one is a semi-automatic shotgun with an incredibly fast rate of fire. Now, this gun here is, oof man, this one's nasty. The thing that makes this one special is that it boasts an incredibly, a really high magazine size and a blazing fire rate. Now, because this thing has a really, fast rate of fire for a semi-automatic shotgun and a large magazine size, it kind of puts itself in a special position because it's a slug-loaded weapon. You load 1 slug at a time. Having an enhanced magazine size actually increases the speed that you reload the gun. So even after you burn out your entire magazine size, you can just keep slamming on the trigger, and it will load shells pretty much as fast as you can pull the trigger, making this a very nasty damage output weapon. Now, you can build this one as a double damage, but I decided to go with a crit rate, crit damage, magazine size, and the best would be damage to slowed and snared. This really gives it a lot more damage potential, allows you to take advantage of crits to get that extra damage output, and because you're using a faster rate of fire weapon, if you don't get lucky with your crit rate, it's still not going to make a huge detrimental impact on you. I think that it is definitely worth going with the crit rate, crit damage, because of the higher fire rate. You're going to be able to utilize that higher, total damage, and you will not notice when your gun is missing those crits, when you get unlucky. It is a really fun, really powerful weapon. For those of you who don't mind the semi-automatic style of play, the Stampede is an excellent toy. All right, next we have the Steam Thrasher. This is a steampunk scythe style weapon, and man, oh man, is this one special. This one actually is one of those maelstrom attack weapons where you just spin and spin to win. It tears up enemies just with reckless abandon. Everyone who uses this weapon is going to love this weapon. Maelstrom is a crowd favorite, and there are a few different weapons that can use it, and every single one of those weapons is absolutely top tier, both in effectiveness and in fun. The best perk loadout for this one is a crit rate, crit damage, damage to slowed and snared, with heavy attack efficiency so that you can spin for super cheap and keep that spin going for just basically forever. All right, next we have the Storm King's Fury, the mythic hardware. This is the weapon that pretty much everybody uses to kill the Storm King's horn. That's why I have it as Bright Core, because Bright Core and Sunbeam do the same damage against the horns, but Bright Core attacks a little bit faster. And this one I like to go with double attack speed, double crit damage. Double attack speed because I think that having attack speed makes the damage output more consistent. not as high potential, but more consistent. Double damage, double crit damage because I use the crit rate amplifying support hero to give this enough crit rate to justify the crit damage, right? You want to have a balance. You want to hit about 1/3 of your shots as is your crit rate, and then the crit damage multiplier is just so much. So that's why I use it the way it has, because it has a 20% base crit, which means that you're going to get a really solid crit rate just by having crit rate in the support slot. So this loadout is just absolutely crazy for anti-Storm King horns. You can also use this to clear out tons of enemies if you attack multiple times against enemies. Once you stack it up to 7 attacks, you'll get the maximum powered meteor strike. When you hit that meteor, it'll just drop meteor bombs in a line and just wipe out entire groups of enemies, making this weapon just one of the most powerful melee weapons in the history of the game. There's nothing like it, and it is just absolute god. In addition, this weapon also has a second heavy attack that allows you to leap through the air when you use it while jumping. Alright, next we have the Storm King's Onslaught. Easily one of my favorite mythic weapons in the entire game. This one is the most broken, cheesy, nonsense weapon that you will ever use from the mythic set. It's just ridiculous. This thing auto-targets heads. It's a headshot weapon 100% of the time. I mean, do I even need to say anything else? This gun is stupid. It's so powerful. Like, go get your best damage to head, like beetle jests, just everything pistols and headshot damages, right? And you just win. You just win forever. This gun's so ridiculous. The best loadout for this one is a crit rate, double crit damage build. The only weakness is, of course, that it's using up energy ammo and that it is an energy weapon instead of a elemental specific weapon. Yeah, just outstanding. This gun is just some next level nonsense. The range on this one is 2,000, so the range is pretty short. Although if you aim down the sights, you can hit much longer range. Although that'll sacrifice the attack speed of this weapon. Typically, I like to get in close and just hold the trigger down and fire a billion shots per second and kill everything. And man, what a champ! What a champ! All right, next we've got the Storm King Ravager. Probably my favorite weapon in the entire game. Well, very nearly anyway. I'm a huge fan of melee, as I'm sure most of you guys know. Melee is my jam, and Paleo Luna is my queen. So this weapon is specifically designed for Paleo Luna, and also for the Storm King Horn. The Storm King Horn Bright Core actually does better damage than Sunbeam, because they both hit for exactly the same against structure damage. But Bright Core attacks a little bit faster. So this one is designed to be the fastest attack speed Ravager that you can possibly get. Bright Core with 3 attack speed, 1 crit damage. This works so well as a Storm King Horn weapon, but also as a Paleo Luna weapon. Either way, it's the best loadout in the entire game for both of those builds, which is why I love it so much. You can choose whether you'd like to go with element energy or element physical. I usually use physical because I have it set to kill the horn, and it works for everything else as well. But I would also have another variant of the Ravager for energy, but enemies, in case I want to use it on regular missions and kill elementals. But the thing that makes this really special compared to the other weapons is that this is the best physical sword in the game, whereas the Spectral Blade is the best water sword, and the Sazerath is the best nature sword, and the Masamune is the best fire sword. So this one really sits into that physical slot very well, and is just basically all-powerful god. When you use the heavy attack on this weapon, it will fire a blast wave that will wipe out absolutely everything, and it gets stronger the more you attack, up to a maximum of 7 stacks to get the widest blast wave that you can possibly get. The Storm King Ravager also has a jumping heavy attack that is basically a Spectral Blade, Spectral Slash, but with longer range and more accuracy. Whenever you jump in the air, if you look at an enemy and hit your heavy attack, you'll blink strike directly on top of them and smash them into dust. Freaking devastating. All right, guys, next we have the Storm King Scourge. Well, what do you say about a mythic weapon? It's the best. If you get it, you're gonna love it. This thing has advantages that no other AR has in the entire game. It's got the most powerful explosion in the entire game. Every time that you shoot something, you build up a charge on it. If you shoot that something 5 times, it'll explode, dealing 100% of the weapon damage to the target and to nearby enemies within a 0.75 radius. 0.75 is higher than the normal 0.5 that other weapons have. In addition, you can get the explosion effect not just from hitting 5 times in a row, but also from weapon switching. If you switch from one target to the next, it'll actually explode the target behind your shot. So you shoot one, you shoot the other, the first target will explode. So if you're just spraying into a crowd, the Storm King Scourge will do just horrific amounts of splash damage to everything. In addition, the bloom, the accuracy, the preciseness of the Storm King Scourge's shot is better than any AR in the history of the game. In addition, the Storm King Scourge also has the longest range attack, 5,120 of any AR in the entire game, tied with the top current ARs like the Tiger. The best loadout for this weapon is a crit rate, double crit damage build that will make the damage on this weapon just absolutely vicious. The only weakness that this gun has is the fact that it shoots energy ammo and is an energy weapon. Because it's energy only, it will never have the option of being an elemental specific counter with fire, nature, water. However, you can turn this into a physical variant to attack, physical enemies like blasters and takers, lobbers and such. All right, next we have the Storm King's Wrath. That's right, guys, the mythic launcher. What do you want to say about this one? There's nothing like it. It's the ultimate weapon. It's like a sniper rifle, but it's a rocket launcher. But if you charge it, it becomes an AoE kill everything machine. My favorite loadout for this one is a damage, because I don't want to be reliant on crit rate. I want this gun to do the maximum damage that it possibly can every single shot. I don't like, crit variance dictating my experience with this gun. I'd rather not rely on RNG. I'll go with the slightly less top-end damage and go with something more consistent that just hits like a truck every single time. That is my favorite way to play this weapon. The only real weakness to this gun is the 3,000 range. It's a very limited range compared to other rocket launchers. It can't shoot very far before it just does no damage. It'll just, if you're outside of the maximum range, it does nothing. So you got to be within a certain range for this one to hit. But yeah, there's nothing like this gun. This is basically an energy, or just it's a rail gun. I like to use this one as physical because I primarily use this against the Storm King horns. But I have energy variants that I use against just enemies in general. Like all mythic weapons, it is a physical or an energy weapon only and uses up a stupid amount of energy. All right, next is the notorious Super Shredder. This gun was just so sought after in the early days of Save the World, back when we were in the classic set, because of its absolutely awesome single shot power. This gun has so many different things that makes it special. It is a sniper rifle, but it shoots shotgun shells. It's a sniper rifle, but it also has 5,000 range. But it also has an enhanced crit rate. It's a gun that is just crazy. It's a sniper rifle that has a huge magazine size. There are so many crazy things about this gun. Not only that, it's a sniper rifle that also loads slugs one at a time into the gun. It is just bizarre, man. This is such a weird amalgamation of weapons. It is really, truly a sniper shotgun. It is a sniper and a shotgun crammed together. Officially, this is a sniper rifle, getting bonuses from sniper rifle perks, but this gun plays very, very much like a shotgun. Now, you have to remember that this is a very slow firing weapon. You only get to fire one shot every second. It's a 0.9 fire rate, so just under a shot per second. You have a very, very large mag, so you can just keep on firing. You can fight and fight and fight with this one a lot. And you have a lot of options when it comes down to the perk loadout. Because this thing has an enhanced crit chance, when you build it as a crit gun, this is going to have a 43% chance to crit, which is insanely high, right? Really, really high. So there is a very, very good argument to going with a crit build. Now, the downside of using the crit build is that this is a slow firing weapon. So if you do get unlucky and you don't, if the crits are not on your side, you're going to find yourself shooting enemies and not getting those kills where otherwise you would get very consistent one-shot kill headshots. So you do have two different directions that you can go with this weapon. This weapon is either a crit rate, crit damage, mag size, and damage is slowed and snared, or you can go with a double damage, mag size, damage is slowed and snared. Either way, very, very, very effective. Now, my preference, honestly, is probably going to lean towards double damage because for me, crit rate, crit damage is more for fighting large enemies like smashers. When it comes to smashers, you really need to get that extra damage, but this is not the kind of gun that you're going to want to use against smashers anyway. Primarily, what I'm going to use this gun for is taking down takers, blasters, propane, lobbers, any, long range physical enemies, which is why I have mine built for physical damage, because typically I'm going to use this as a physical target killer. But honestly, there's a lot of play as to playstyles on how you want to use this gun. Now, because you put the magazine size in this weapon, this gives you that massive boost because it's a slug gun, right? Because it's a slug gun that loads slugs in one at a time, it has a 6-second reload to reload your entire magazine size. So if your magazine size is bigger, you still have a 6-second reload to load the entire magazine, even though you're loading more shots, meaning you're going to load those shots way faster. So when you actually get down to the end of your mag, you're going to be loading shots in, and you're going to be able to fire this gun as fast as you want and never ever actually run out of ammo, because the slugs will load as fast as you need them to load in order to keep firing the weapon. It's a fascinating system when you get those mag size bonuses on a slug style weapon. So yeah, you have a lot of options with this, guys. Go with a crit rate, crit damage, or go with a double damage. Either way, you're not going to be disappointed with a monster like the Super Shredder. All right, so speaking of toys, this is another one of those crazy weapons. It is essentially a toy fighter jet on a stick. Stupid, right? Not really. This gun is, or this axe is like borderline obscenely broken. When you are using this weapon, you will basically not take damage. This thing is so offensively powerful and so devastating with such high impact that you will just crush everything in front of you. The thing that really makes this hit a god tier level is the jet fueled blast, which I think very few people really understand fully, because it looks weird, and until you get a feel for it, you don't fully understand what's happening with this weapon. The truth behind this weapon is that when you use the heavy attack of jet fuel blast, you are doing a combo attack that ends in a thrust that shoots the missiles and weapons on the jet. So essentially, the end of your heavy attack, the jet does a ranged cone burst damage effect that wipes out everything in front of you, doing massive pushback and damage, which when comboed with lifesteal will regenerate you to full health and suppress all enemy assaults on you, making you basically immune to damage, making you regenerate constantly, and making you wipe out entire crowds of enemies with one of the most surprisingly all-powerful abilities in the game. This one is just a crazy, nutty, super-powered weapon, boasting a 48% chance to crit and a massive 345% crit chance. This weapon is wild. The best perk loadout for this one is a crit rate, double crit damage with damage to missed monsters and bosses. You guys are gonna fall in love. All right, next we have the Surround Pound. This one is one of the most powerful weapons ever designed by human minds. This thing has, again, one of the most deadly heavy attacks of any weapon ever. This is basically a melee weapon with a ranged attack rivaling the Mythic Storm King hammer. This thing is so insane. This is the weapon that people used before they got the Storm King hammer, and in many ways, this heavy attack is more powerful than the hammer because it's instantaneous damage, allowing you to attack in a line, devastating all enemies in front of you, and just obliterating everything like it's nothing. Like, this weapon is absolutely ludicrously powerful. The ultimate perk loadout for this one is crit rate, double crit damage, and damage, giving you the highest possible damage that you can squeeze out for launching those heavy attack bombs that will just murder everything into dust. This thing has a 50% chance to crit with a massive crit damage modifier, making this just a destroyer, man. This thing will devastate groups of enemies like nothing. Just, oh my god. In addition, every time this weapon stuns or knocks back an enemy, it actually causes all nearby enemies to dance for a short time, making it incredibly hard for enemies to do any real damage to you while you're slaughtering everything. Alright, now we're going to talk about one of my favorite guns in the entire game, the Terminator. This one is an absolute freak show. This monster crazy weapon is, yeah, seriously, probably one of the best, if not the best gun you'll ever use in your entire career on Save the World. I have been using it forever, and I still use this even over mythic weapons. With the right build, with the right hero loadout, this is one of the craziest weapons you will ever get your hands on, ever. Now, the thing that makes this weapon special is the massive magazine capacity. This is special even amongst all other LMGs of its kind, because with the Terminator, it actually has the ability to be specialized into any of the elements, whether you want to be using fire, nature, physical, water. The choice is really yours. This is unlike other weapons like the Candy Corn or the Mercury LMG, which do not give you the choice of choosing your element, which is what makes this particular weapon stand out even amongst all the other crazy LMGs that are in the game. It is just absolutely versatile carnage, just versatile death incarnate. This weapon is my absolute favorite when it comes to elemental specific annihilation. The ultimate perk loadout for this gun is crit rate, crit damage, mag size, and damage to slowed and snared. Now, the thing that makes this weapon truly special is the fact that you can use this on ramping builds using Crankshot and Bulletstorm Jonesy because of the extreme mag size, to get damage that no other gun can possibly achieve. The fire rate is incredibly fast, and this one just absolutely vomits damage like crazy and has such a great sustain, because you can hold the trigger down for so long and do such an extreme amount of damage without having to reload your gun, and that is the beauty of the Terminator. Alright, next on the list we have the Thrasher. This is a classic set SMG, extremely powerful, one of the hardest hitting SMGs in the game. It has a 3500 range, which is, you know, pretty solid, pretty normal for an SMG. 25 mags, so a little bit on the shallow end for magazine size. You can still put magazine size on this weapon if you want to deepen that mag size. It's still a big enough mag size that the 75% will have a very significant impact on the total amount of output that you can do before you have to reload the weapon. The fire rate is extremely fast. The damage is extremely high. The headshot damage is also very high. With this weapon, you want to go with a crit rate, crit damage, damage to slowed and snared, and then you need to choose between damage or mag size on this weapon. The reload time is 2.3, so already fast enough. Doesn't need to be any faster. If you want to go with the highest burst damage, you want to go with that bonus damage. If you want to go with more sustain, you want to go with the extra magazine size. Very powerful. One of the most powerful SMGs in the game. If you can get in really close, it really melts super hard. This one is a beast. Next on my list is the Thumper. Now, a lot of you might have written this gun off because it's a classic set.
Grenade launcher. Grenade launchers are not typically, you know, the most beloved of weapons compared to rocket launchers because of the rocket launcher's ease of use and ease of accuracy. You know, with a thumper, you're actually gonna have to aim your shots, sometimes even planning to bounce your shot to get the best effect possible. But let me tell you right now, man, the thumper is a vicious, powerful, devastating weapon. The perk loadout for this one is 3 damage and damage to afflicted targets. And let me tell you, you're going to basically annihilate everything in your path because this thing has 6 shots in the magazine. You're basically going to be able to spam this gun as much as you want. It's a great weapon. This thing just tung tung tung. It keeps on just like rocking shots in there, and the splash damage is fantastic. And when you have a triple damage loadout on this weapon, it's so consistent. The damage output is so high and so consistent. All medium to low size enemies are going to get absolutely devastated. Devastated. And yeah, this gun is just a huge win for anybody who has used this one. It is so easy to enjoy a weapon like this because you can fire it so quickly and do so much damage so fast. Definitely, if you haven't tried the thumper out, get it now and try it because it is a fantastic weapon. All right, now we have the Thunderbolt. Thunderbolt is a double-barreled shotgun with a massive, massive area of effect, allowing this weapon to hit just tons of enemies with every single shot that it fires. This one here has the capability of, this gun right here has the capability of destroying entire waves of enemies within seconds, making this, again, one of my favorite weapons. The drawbacks to this one, of course, is that it is extremely close range with a 768 range. It has, you know, the damage falls off very, very quickly. It also does not boast a very effective attack against large single target enemies. This one is really designed to wipe out waves and waves of enemies. It is better to use a different weapon to finish off the large single targets. But for wave clear, man, this gun is just at the top of the list for sure. It is actually a classic set weapon that has been out since day one, although has received some substantial boosts since that time. This one has an incredible crit chance, boasting a 43% chance to crit, which is just absolutely vicious. My favorite loadout with the Thunderbolt is actually a double damage reload with damage to slowed and snared. When I'm using really, really slow firing shotguns that hit a lot of targets, I vastly prefer going with flat damage over crit damage. Crit damage is better for overall damage dealt, but in terms of having damage consistency and wiping out waves of smaller enemies, I find the flat damage to be way, way more powerful than crit variants, especially when you're firing a little bit slower and you don't have as high rate of fire. It can be very frustrating relying on crit to give you those big hits that you need when a single shot is often enough to kill everything in front of you. All right, so the Tiger Jaw is a fantastic shotgun. This one here is fully automatic, hits really, really hard, just absolutely shreds enemies in front of it, can often kill regular Husks in 1 or 2 shots to the face. It's a terror, man. This is one of the most easy to use, satisfying weapons. It has a drum reload, so when you reload this shotgun, it actually reloads the entire magazine in one go, rather than the single slug reload that a lot of the shotguns have, making this one an absolute beast at a 2,000 range. This one is just basically a go-to weapon. If anybody who has used this as a god roll knows that this is a staple, super fun, top tier beast of a weapon, and it'll be well worth your time to add this to your collection of weapons that you use on the regular. The perk loadout for the Tiger Jaw is crit rate, crit damage, and damage to slowed and snared. All right, next we have the Winter Holiday Tree of Light. This thing is nasty, nasty, nasty. Oh man, this weapon is going to blow your freaking mind.
honestly one of the most powerful swords in the entire game. This thing is ruthless. The best perk or loadout for this one is double attack speed, crit damage, and damage to stun staggered. The thing that makes this really truly special is that passive. Every 8th hit causes a stun around the character, which yes, can even stun mini bosses. This weapon is crazy powered. Now, the reason that I usually go with crit damage, the reason that I use this loadout is because I always run this with a Paleo Luna build because I'm trying to run it with the fastest attack speed possible. And of course, Paleo Luna is the ultimate melee character when it comes to attack speed weapons. I use the Whiteout Fiona to boost the crit chance above 10% to actually give it a pretty solid crit chance, which then comboed with the 1 crit damage actually gives you some insane offensive opportunities. This weapon though is really shines because of the crowd control. That stun effect gives you so much survivability and allows you to get out of situations where you would otherwise just absolutely die. This one is just a superstar among melee options. All right, next on the list is the famous Typewriter. This one is notorious and beloved amongst the community, both for its awesome cosmetic, amazing sound, and also just the real uniqueness of the weapon's build. The thing that makes this weapon really interesting and powerful is how effective this is as a run and gun tool. Because this weapon is very stable, you can actually shoot this while running without aiming down the sights to get a huge amount of accurate damage. It is not necessary to aim down the sights on this weapon. You can just basically hold it, run, and just shoot and shoot and shoot and shoot, and you're going to hit most of your shots. Where most weapons have to aim down the sights in order to have any real accuracy, this one differs in that way. Another way that it differs is because this is very much a drum gun. Because this has a drum for its magazine, it boasts a huge capacity magazine, which is augmented even further by adding magazine size into the perk loadout, making this a incredibly powerful sustained damage tool. Now, it has a slightly slower fire rate than a lot of your ARs, but still very 8.1 is a solid rate of fire for a weapon. This one, definitely you want to run with a crit build on this so that you can really get the most amount of damage per magazine that you can do. There are a lot of different ways that you can build this gun, but my favorite is the deep magazine with the crit build to get the most damage per mag that you can possibly get, and the sustained damage on this gun is just absolutely amazing and super fun. So go with the crit rate, crit damage, go with the crit rate, double crit damage, magazine size for the best possible sustained damage that you're going to get out of this weapon. Absolutely fantastic. The Typewriter. All right, guys, next we have the Vacuum Tube Sniper Rifle. Now, this one here, this is a truly special weapon. This thing has what feels like a plasma stream beam of death. It is a truly one-of-a-kind sniper rifle with a blazing 10.8 fire rate. It's unlike anything you'll ever use. It's extraordinarily powerful, but really the major downside is that this thing is going to absolutely destroy your energy supply. But it is undeniably one of the most powerful weapons in the game, especially for in the hands of Sub-Zero Zenith. This weapon has incredible freezing crowd controlling potential. This gun is spectacular. The ultimate loadout for this one is crit rate, crit damage, mag size, and damage to slowed and snared. This is a nature only weapon. It only ever comes in nature, so you're only ever going to be able to use this one against water enemies, to its maximum potential. So that is one big limitation for this weapon, which is why, between the energy cost and the very specific nature of the weapon, you're basically never going to see people utilizing this weapon. But if you actually have the chance, this is a truly spectacular, super powerful, fun weapon, and you guys are going to have just a ball harnessing the nonsense that is the continuous, active, accurate beam of nature damage. Wild, man. Wild. All right, next we have the Vindertech Disintegrator. This gun, man. This gun is something truly spectacular. This thing fires a plasma shot that hits the ground and murders everything. That's what it is. This is not a shotgun. It may be classified as a shotgun, but this gun is a rocket launcher in shotgun form. It's literally, you just shoot the ground at their feet and it kills everything's face right off. That is what this gun is for. That is what it does. The only downside to this weapon is that it uses energy ammo, and a lot of people aren't going to want to pay for that. The best perk loadout for this one is double damage, mag size, the damage to mist monsters and bosses, and the passive perk that I enjoy is 25% impact with 400 knockback magnitude. Now that one's not an essential component by any means, but there's just a real lack of options when it comes to which one you want to use. The on-crit shield regeneration only matters if you're running with a crit build, which I do not prefer. The slowed and snared and affliction passives do not really matter because I'm probably not going to be switching this over to damage to slowed and snared or damage to afflicted targets, because generally speaking, this is not a super, this is a kill smaller enemies type of weapon, right? This is an AoE. It wipes out groups. If you're going to be going after bigger targets, that's going to require multiple shots. You're going to switch to a more focus-fired weapon. So it's not really necessary to assume that you're going to have to hit something multiple times where that damage to afflicted or damage to slowed and snared really has any relevance on the weapon. All in all, the Vindertech Disintegrator feels like a completely overpowered, just boss weapon. It looks amazing, it sounds amazing, and it murders everything into the ground. If you ever get the chance to use this freak show, you're in for a real good day. All right, next on the list is the Viper. This is an SMG. This one actually, man, this one is nasty. This is actually one of the nastiest guns in the game. It's a classic set weapon going way back. This is a really neat classic set weapon, boasting one of the highest fire rates of any gun in the game, rocking 13.5. Just blazing attack speed, which means it is going to be a lot of bullets. Very expensive. This is going to eat your ammo supply like just at such an insane rate. It's got a 2500 range, which is very, actually quite short ranged for an SMG. Most SMGs are boasting probably a 3500 range or more, but it is very powerful. You definitely want to go with a crit build on this one because you're going to be puking a lot of ammo, and you want to make sure that that crit variance is on your side and is pushing out the most amount of damage per second that you can possibly do per clip. So definitely with this one, you want to rock crit rate, crit damage, damage to slowed and snared, and either damage or you want to go with mag size. One or the other. This has an incredibly fast reload time, so you don't need to worry about the reload. Being that it has a 30 magazine size, you can actually boost to quite high. You can have a very large magazine if you decide to go with extra magazine size, or you can go with a more damage efficient plus to damage magazine, so you do higher damage per bullet, but having requiring you to reload more often. All in all, the Viper is an absolutely devastating, aggressive weapon that is a lot of fun to use, but very expensive. All right, guys, next we've got the Whisper 45. Yeah, that's right, the military monster. Just like all of the military weapons, it is definitely a force to be reckoned with. This is part of the Silence set. This comes with the threefold, the Silence Spectre, the Whisper 45, and the Wraith. All of these silenced weapons have the highest critical hit chance of any weapons in the game. These are all packing a 48% chance to crit with a proper build and absolutely tear everything to pieces. To this day, the Whisper 45 is one of the strongest pistols in the game, with monstrous headshot damage, a monstrous critical hit chance, and a rock solid perk loadout with a feel good rate of fire and a 3500 range. You just can't go wrong. Everybody who uses this gun loves this gun. The only downside is it's a semi-automatic weapon, and as long as you don't mind semi-automatic weapons, this is one of the most powerful pistols in the entire game. Just an absolute freak. The perk loadout for this one is crit rate, crit damage, damage to afflicted targets, and damage. Now, you can also take reload speed or mag size. Those are options. I prefer the higher flat damage myself. The mag size is 12, so if you put a magazine size bonus on it, you're going to get, you know, a nice little extra chunk of shots off before you're forced to reload, which is going to be a definite favorite for most people. Reload is also pretty good, although the 2.2 reload time on this weapon is already not that bad. So I think the most popular is probably going to be mag size, even though my favorite is personally damage. All right, next we have the Wicked Wind. This is a really, really interesting weapon. Very, very powerful weapon. The thing that's fascinating about this one is just the sheer power and the different kinds of perk loadouts you can use on this one. Now, the loadouts are interesting. You only have one perk that can put attack speed, and I highly suggest you utilize that to speed up the attack on this weapon. With your other loadouts, you have damage, crit damage. Now, this is dependent on using a crit rate modifier with Whiteout Fiona in your support slot in order to get your crit chance high enough to utilize that crit damage. Now, this is a viable option because the base crit chance on this weapon is already 25, which is the pretty much the highest you can possibly be. So once you add that crit rate, you're going to get a 1 in 3 chance to utilize that crit damage. If you don't like the variance of worrying about crit, you can actually just choose to abolish that entirely and go with extra damage on this weapon. Any which way you do it, this is an extremely powerful weapon because of how hard it hits and how versatile it is. The whirlwind attack gives you a nice heavy attack that pushes enemies back and does a bunch of damage, and it's just a really, really solid weapon to use. Now, with the passive for this weapon, you do have some options. You can actually go with a 5 elimination that regenerates your shields, which I'm not a huge fan of. I prefer the armor granting. If you can actually get bonus armor on this weapon, I think that's your best bet, because you're going to be in the middle of enemies. You're probably going to be getting hit a lot by ranged, and if you're really, really aggressive with this weapon, you can stack your armor up 5 times, walking around with a very significant armor upgrade, allowing you to take a lot of extra hits, and just being a very tanky, highly offensive weapon for melee. All right, next we have the Wraith. The Wraith is one of the all-time highest rated guns in Save the World. Everyone freaking loves this gun. I tend not to use it because I like to run and gun, and this gun has a really bad bloom, which is aggravated by shooting on the move. You really need to stand still and aim down the sights for this gun to achieve its maximum potential, and if you do that, this gun is a terror. The best perk loadout for this gun is crit rate, double crit damage, and mag size. This will allow you to shoot the gun for a very, very long period of time. The slow fire rate of 7.15 ensures that this gun does a lot of damage with the mag size at hand. So by the time you use up your entire 52 mag size, the amount of damage you'll have done with a crit build is just absolutely extraordinary. This is one of the silenced weapons, which means it has a 48% chance to crit and a colossal 345% critical hit damage bonus. So this gun's going to crit virtually every other shot for just absolutely massive, massive damage. The sustained damage per magazine of this weapon is amongst the highest in the game. It is just incredible, and most everyone loves this gun to death. All right, speaking of awesome guns, next on the list is the Woofer. This one is often underestimated because it does have some weaknesses, but it has some incredible strengths. The thing to know about the Woofer is that the Woofer is an extremely, extremely short-ranged weapon. 768, shortest range of any shotgun in the game. All the super short range shotguns are at this range. So you got to be really, really close to take full advantage of the power of the Woofer. The Woofer has the ability to hit multiple enemies and absolutely devastate like crazy. Like, it's really strong. Also, because this gun has an enhanced crit rate, you're actually rocking a 43% chance to crit, making this a prime gun
for a crit damage build. When you hit those crits, this gun is going to absolutely annihilate everything. It is crazy, crazy powerful, but you got to be in close and you got to get that crit. Now, the advantage of this gun is the top end damage. It hits very hard on crits, and in addition, this gun has full elemental choice. So when you build it, you get to choose between nature, water, fire, physical, whatever you want, right? You can build this gun to specialize in destroying any type of enemy that you want, which is not the case with some of these, super powerful energy-based weapons. The other advantage that this gun has is the fact that it is a boombox weapon, meaning you get the incredibly powerful crowd control that causes enemies to dance whenever you eliminate a target, or if you get one of these stun ones. This one has very, very good impact, so if you use the stun variant, it's going to cause a lot of dancing that way as well. The choice really is up to you. Now, you do have other options for the loadout. You don't have to take a crit build. You can actually go with a full 4 damage build across the board if you want to get super, super consistent high damage. And that will make it so that you just get in super close, and then you just delete enemies up close with one of the most powerful elemental specific weapons in the game. That will make it so that every shot is super strong instead of having the crit variants. Crit is obviously going to give you more total damage over time. If you're aiming at really, really big targets, then you want to use the crit build. But if you're aiming at mid-range to small enemies, the quad damage is absolutely the best build for you. All right, guys, next we have the Xenon Bow, the single most broken weapon in the history of Save the World. This thing, holy cow, man. Talk about a meta-breaking, game-breaking, just piece of insanity. This is the Neon Bow. This thing has an area of effect shot. It is a piercing shot. Like an obliterator, it can shoot through the universe. It shoots through anything. This thing feels like it has auto aim because of how large the projectile radius actually is. Like the area that it hits is much larger than you would imagine, and it makes it so easy to hit everything. It can make it a little tricky to get your headshots, which is a shame because the headshot multiplier on this weapon is absolutely bonkers. If you can hit your headshots, this thing is going to do crazy damage. But this thing is truly madness. It's got a 10,000 range, pierces through everything, pretty good fire rate. All right, the best perk loadout for this weapon is triple damage and fire rate. The fire rate is so that you can pull the weapon back and it gets a full pull back faster, which allows you to shoot, your maximum distance and your maximum damage quicker, allowing you to achieve levels of damage that you just didn't even realize was possible with bows. Fire rate is essential on bows now. In the hands of Stoneheart Farah, this is probably the single most powerful weapon in the entire game. Absolute gone tier. All right, next we have the Yeoman. This is a medieval sniper rifle. And the thing that's really interesting about this one is that it is a harpoon shooter, which has projectile drop. So that makes it a little bit harder to hit your headshots, but also makes the damage go through the roof, making it one of the hardest hitting weapons in the game. My favorite loadout for this one is definitely the double reload speed. The double reload speed brings the reload time down to the fire rate. Fire rate is 0.9 and the reload is 1. So you basically fire one shot every second with the double reload speed build, and then you just put damage and damage to miss monsters and bosses to really maximize the amount of damage that you do with this weapon. This weapon is a piercing weapon, so it shoots through multiple enemies, and because of that, it can be used to clear out a lot of enemies that are pushing in on you, especially when you can fire once per second. It is very, very aggressive, high damaging, piercing sniper rifle style weapon. Just fantastic. Now you do have some options when it comes to core reperk on this weapon. You can either go with a bullet splinter effect that does damage to the enemies behind the kill shot, or you can go with a headshot eliminations causes explosion, which for me is my all-time favorite sniper effect.
because that one just absolutely wrecks all enemies around the target that you hit, especially with how hard the Yeoman hits. That explosion is going to be nasty.